just a temporary inconvenience. The tension kicks in during a high-profile conference, where Ambassador Han is about to speak about dismantling the triads at an international level. And you can feel that something is about to snap, because the atmosphere gets tighter the closer he gets to revealing a mysterious name that supposedly holds the key to exposing powerful crime leaders. Just as he begins to unveil it, a sniper's bullet rips through the moment, and everything erupts into panic. And Lee moves without hesitation, sprinting after the assassin with that fluid, almost effortless fighting style that makes his action sequences look more like choreography than violence. But then the story hits you with an emotional weight that you didn't expect in a comedy-driven franchise. Because when Lee corners the shooter and sees his face, he recognizes him as Kenji, the boy he grew up with in an orphanage, the closest thing he ever had to a brother. That single second of hesitation is enough for Kenji to escape, and Carter arrives too late, confused but already talking non-stop like he's still in control of the situation. Ambassador Han survives, but it's clear the attack was only the beginning, especially when Su Young becomes another target. The stakes suddenly shift from political conspiracy to personal danger, and Lee takes it deeply to heart, because protecting Han's family isn't just a job for him. Carter, meanwhile, is dragged back into real detective work whether he's officially reinstated or not, and despite his jokes and constant flirtations, you can tell he thrives when the chaos gets bigger. Their investigation leads them through kung fu studios, hospital corridors filled with hitmen, and interrogations that somehow turn into comedy routines because Carter refuses to treat anything with the seriousness it probably deserves. Even when they question a suspect who only speaks French and need a nun to translate, the movie leans into absurdity instead of tension. But it never fully loses the sense that something larger is unfolding beneath the humor. When the trail pulls them to Paris, the film shifts in energy, not just geographically, but because suddenly they are outsiders again, mocked by local authorities, searched aggressively at the airport, and treated like nuisances rather than international heroes. Carter's loud American confidence clashes hilariously with the cold Parisian attitude, especially through their encounters with a stubborn taxi driver named George, who openly dislikes Americans but keeps getting dragged into their mess anyway. It's in Paris that the conspiracy grows deeper, especially once they realize that Shai Shen isn't a person but something much bigger. A hidden list of triad leaders whose identities could bring down powerful networks. That twist changes the direction of the mission, because now it's not just about revenge or protection, it's about exposure. The introduction of Genevieve adds another layer of unpredictability, because at first she seems like just another performer caught in criminal crossfire, but gradually it becomes clear she's carrying something far more dangerous than anyone imagined. Meanwhile, Kenji re-enters the story, not just as a villain, but as a man who genuinely believes he and Lee chose different destinies. And their confrontations feel less like traditional hero versus antagonist clashes, and more like unresolved childhood arguments that spiraled into opposite moral paths. There's a scene in the Paris sewers where Kenji offers Lee a way out, telling him to leave and survive. But Lee refuses, because survival without protecting the innocent isn't something he can accept. And that refusal defines the core difference between them. As everything tightens toward the climax, betrayals surface in places that were supposed to be safe, including officials who pretended to be allies, while secretly aligning with the triads. And the film's tone becomes slightly darker, even though Carter still finds time to complain, flirt, and brag. The final confrontation at the Eiffel Tower brings spectacle, emotion, and absurdity together in one chaotic sequence, because Lee faces Kenji in a sword fight, high above Paris, their movements reflecting years of shared training and unspoken resentment. When they fall into a safety net, and the blade slices through it, Lee tries to save Kenji, instead of letting him fall. And that gesture says everything about who he is, because even after betrayal and bloodshed, he still chooses mercy over vengeance. Kenji letting go is tragic, not triumphant, and you can see how deeply it devastates Lee. At the same time, Carter is fighting off henchmen, rescuing Su Young, and proving that beneath all the noise and ego, he is loyal and brave when it matters most. The final moments wrap up the conspiracy with exposure, justice, and one last burst of comedic energy. Because even when corrupt officials try to steal credit, Lee and Carter handle it their own way, stepping away together like they always do, bruised but victorious. Watching the whole thing feels less like witnessing a groundbreaking sequel, and more like revisiting a chaotic partnership that thrives on chemistry, rhythm, and contrast, where discipline meets loud confidence, and serious stakes are constantly interrupted by outrageous humor. It may not reinvent the franchise or silence critics, but it keeps the heartbeat of the duo alive, delivering exactly what fans expect: fast action, cultural clashes, emotional undertones, and a friendship that somehow survives every explosion, betrayal, and misunderstanding thrown at it. And after all that chaos on screen, when you step back and think about the whole experience, you start noticing how this third adventure doesn't really try to reinvent the formula, but instead leans heavily into what already made the partnership work in the first place. Because at its core, the magic has always been the contrast between Lee's quiet discipline and Carter's loud unpredictability. And even when the plot stretches into over-the-top territory with international conspiracies and hidden lists tattooed in impossible places, the heartbeat of the film remains that cultural clash, comedy mixed with surprisingly sincere emotional moments. Especially whenever Lee's past collides with his present, there's something almost nostalgic about watching them operate again, after such a long gap between installments. Because you can feel that the movie knows it's returning to familiar territory. And instead of pretending to evolve into something darker or more serious, it doubles down on the fast-paced banter and elaborate fight choreography that defined the earlier films. Behind the scenes, you can tell this was a big production, not just in scale but in expectation, because by the time this installment was made, both leads were massive stars, and the franchise itself had already proven it could pull huge box office numbers. So everything feels larger, from the international locations to the elaborate action sequences staged across Los Angeles and Paris. There's an almost glossy confidence in how the film moves, like it knows audiences are showing up mostly to see Lee flip across rooms and Carter talk his way into and out of trouble. And in that sense, it delivers exactly what it promises. The Paris setting gives it a different flavor, especially with the language, jokes, and cultural misunderstandings that keep Carter constantly frustrated and slightly out of place. But that displacement actually fuels a lot of the humor, because his loud personality, bouncing off a city that doesn't respond the way he expects, creates its own rhythm. At the same time, the emotional thread with Kenji gives the story more weight than people might initially expect from a buddy comedy, because Lee's internal struggle isn't played for laughs. It's handled with genuine tension. And every time he faces Kenji, you can see the conflict in his eyes, like he's fighting not just an enemy, but a memory of who they both used to be. That layer keeps the film from feeling completely disposable, even when the plot gets exaggerated, because there's always this underlying idea about loyalty, brotherhood, and the paths people choose when they grow up in the same place but end up in different worlds. When the film finally wraps up, what stays with you isn't necessarily the conspiracy details or the politics behind the triads, but the chemistry, the rhythm of the jokes landing between punches, and the familiarity of watching two completely different personalities somehow sync perfectly in the middle of chaos. It's the kind of movie you don't watch for deep philosophical meaning. You watch it because you want that specific energy only this duo can create. The combination of precision martial arts and rapid-fire comedy that feels chaotic but strangely controlled at the same time. Even if critics weren't impressed, and some felt it didn't break new ground, audiences still showed up in big numbers, which says something about how much goodwill the first two films had built. Because sometimes people just want to see characters they enjoy thrown into another wild situation. As the credits roll, the film leaves this lingering feeling that, despite all the chaos, the core of the story is really about trust and friendship. Lee and Carter have been through explosions, assassins, high-speed chases, and even family betrayals, yet their bond remains unshaken, and that's the real anchor of the film. Even the comedic elements, like Carter's relentless one-liners, or his attempts to navigate Parisian culture, are tied to this connection. His humor isn't just for laughs. It's a coping mechanism that balances the tension of life and death situations. The action sequences themselves deserve a closer look because they're meticulously choreographed, blending traditional martial arts with improvised props and urban landscapes, which is Jackie Chan's signature. The fights aren't just flashy, they tell a story. Every punch, every kick, every narrowly avoided trap communicates Lee's experience, discipline, and creativity. In contrast, Carter's style is improvisational and unpredictable. And the contrast between their approaches doesn't just generate humor, it amplifies the stakes of each encounter. Because you're never quite sure if their plan will work until it does. Visually, the film takes advantage of its locations. Paris isn't just a backdrop. It's an active participant. The tight streets, the ornate buildings, the Eiffel Tower and the climactic exchange, all these elements heighten tension and add layers to the chase sequences. Even minor details, like the language barriers, the local customs, and the quirky supporting characters, create moments that feel authentic and lived in. making the film's world richer than the typical buddy cop setup. The villainous elements, particularly Kenji's internal conflict and Renard's betrayal, provide depth to what could have been a standard comedic plot. Kenji isn't evil for the sake of evil. He's motivated by history, loyalty, and personal codes, which makes the confrontation with Lee feel inevitable yet tragic. Renard's corruption reinforces that in every international mission, the real threat often comes not just from criminals but from those trusted to uphold the law. These layers give the narrative a subtle weight, balancing the humor with stakes that feel tangible. Ultimately, Rush Hour 3 thrives on contrasts: humor versus danger, loyalty versus betrayal, tradition versus improvisation. It knows what it is, and it leans into that without overcomplicating itself. While the story might not revolutionize the genre, it does exactly what audiences expect: high-energy comedy, inventive action, and the undeniable chemistry between its two leads. It's less about plot innovation, and more about delivering a cinematic experience that's both exhilarating and fun, leaving viewers with a sense of satisfaction that, after all the chaos, the duo still has each other's backs ready for whatever madness might come next. The sun had just begun its slow descent over Los Angeles, casting long shadows across the towering glass buildings, when Chief Inspector Lee found himself walking briskly through the quiet halls of the Chinese consulate. The weight of responsibility pressed upon him like the steel grip of a well-worn handcuff, reminding him that every step he took could have consequences far beyond this city. It had been 3 years since his last encounter with Detective James Carter, a man whose humor was as relentless as his energy, yet whose loyalty had proven time and again to match the severity of any threat. Today, though Lee was not moving alone, beside him, Ambassador Solon Han prepared to address the gathered representatives at the World Criminal Court in Los Angeles. A man of dignified bearing and quiet authority, who had entrusted his life to Lee on more than one occasion. Every word Han was about to speak carried weight, a reminder that the triads, with their sprawling networks and shadowed influence, remained a constant threat to law and order, not just in Hong Kong, but across the globe. Meanwhile, miles away in a congested Los Angeles intersection, James Carter wrestled with the day-to-day mundanity of traffic control. The LAPD had seen fit to assign him to directing vehicles, a punishment for an offense long buried in bureaucratic paperwork. Carter's uniform, crisply ironed and reflecting the late afternoon sun, seemed almost comically at odds with the swagger and bravado that he carried like a second skin. His eyes, however, remained sharp, always scanning, always alert. Even while waving impatient drivers along, he tuned his ears to the faintest crackle of police radio chatter. It was a day like any other, yet neither man could anticipate that the balance between ordinary routine and chaos was about to shatter with the sharp report of gunfire. At the World Criminal Court, the serene hum of discussion was broken by the unexpected and violent sound of a shot. Chaos erupted almost instantly. Security personnel dove for cover as the crowd scattered, but Lee's instincts had already propelled him into motion. His eyes locked onto the source of the disturbance, a figure moving with a calculated precision that spoke of lethal training and cold intent. There, framed against the ornate backdrop of Los Angeles judicial architecture, was a man Lee recognized with instant shock and disbelief. His childhood foster brother, Kenji, a man thought to have vanished into obscurity years ago, now stood with weapon raised, a phantom from a past Lee had long tried to reconcile. Hesitation, brief yet profound, flickered in Lee's eyes. The years of shared childhood, the nights spent in the orphanage, the dreams of a life untainted by violence all collided in that fleeting instant. And then, as if the moment could stretch infinitely, the assassin slipped away, leaving Lee and the chaos behind him. Carter, alerted by the sound of gunfire over his police radio, arrived on the scene with an almost comedic, yet unshakable determination. His entrance was marked by a flurry of action, a combination of surprise and sheer instinct. Yet he immediately recognized the complexity of the situation. The target, Ambassador Han, had survived, but barely. The assassin's escape left questions dangling in the air, questions that would require every ounce of Lee and Carter's skill to answer. Han was rushed to UCLA Medical Center. The sterile corridors of the hospital, a sharp contrast to the opulence and violence they had just left behind. Lee and Carter, united by duty and a deep, unspoken trust, promised Han's daughter, Soo Young, that they would uncover the identity of the perpetrator and bring them to justice. The gravity of that promise hung heavily in the air, a silent acknowledgement that this mission would demand more than strategy and strength. It would require intuition, courage, and the unyielding bond between two men whose lives had intertwined in ways that defied conventional understanding. The search began with a journey to the local kung fu studio, where Master Yu awaited with a wisdom that had been honed over decades. The atmosphere was tense, filled with the scent of incense and the faint metallic tang of practiced swords. Here, they learned that the triads had already acted, taking Su Young's belongings and moving toward the hospital with lethal intent. Lee and Carter's return to the hospital was swift, their movement a seamless blend of strategy and reflex. The confrontation with the hitman was fierce, every moment a test of timing, strength, and resolve. Lee's martial arts prowess was complemented by Carter's improvisational energy, the two moving as a singular unit despite their contrasting styles. The battle was not merely physical. It was a test of wit and perception, each maneuver calculated, each strike deliberate. The hospital, typically a sanctuary of life and healing, became a theater of suspense, echoing with the sounds of combat and the unyielding determination of two men committed to protecting life at all costs. With the immediate threat neutralized, attention turned to the interrogation of one captured assailant. The man's French tongue presented a barrier that seemed insurmountable until Sister Agnes, fluent in the language, stepped forward. Her calm, steady presence bridged cultures and languages, embodying a quiet strength that often went unnoticed, yet was crucial to their mission. The trio's strategy became clear: ensure Su Young's safety by relocating her to the French embassy, where she could be shielded by both protocol and the protective watch of Varden Renard, chairman of the World Criminal Court. However, the threat was relentless. A car bomb detonated with near-fatal consequences, signaling that the triad's reach extended far beyond what anyone had anticipated. Lee and Carter's journey to Paris was no longer optional, it was inevitable, a path that would thrust them into the heart of the city's labyrinthine streets and shadowed underworld. Paris, with its elegant boulevards and intricate architecture, became both stage and obstacle. The city's charm was deceptive, masking the danger that lurked beneath every alleyway and behind every ornate facade. Commissioner Revy, emblematic of the local authority, presented immediate challenges, his skepticism and anti-American sentiment complicating the duo's investigation. It was here that they encountered George, a cab driver whose knowledge of the city's secrets was as intimate as it was invaluable. Reluctantly, George became their guide, his route weaving through the hidden arteries of Paris, leading them toward the triad hideouts that remained the nexus of the criminal network. Within these hidden enclaves, Carter met Genevieve, a performer whose allure was matched by her significance to the unfolding mystery. Simultaneously, Lee was drawn into a perilous trap set by Jasmine, a mob assassin whose duplicity nearly claimed his life. The interplay of deception and discovery became the rhythm of their mission. Every encounter, every revelation, was a step closer to understanding the scope of the conspiracy they faced. Their eventual capture by Kenji's men brought them into the sewers, a symbolic descent into the darkness that mirrored the moral and emotional complexity of the situation. Kenji's proposal to spare their lives in exchange for abandoning the pursuit was rejected by Lee, whose sense of duty and loyalty extended beyond personal safety. The struggle in the shadowed tunnels was not merely a contest of strength, but a confrontation of values, choices, and the enduring bonds that defined Lee and Carter's partnership. Emerging from the sewers, bruised but unbroken, the pair sought refuge in a Parisian hotel, a temporary sanctuary where reflection became necessary. Lee's confession regarding his history with Kenji added layers of emotional weight, revealing the depth of connection and conflict that would drive the climax of their journey. Carter's temporary disillusionment gave way to renewed purpose, fueled by the resilience of human connection and the unexpected threads of hope that wove through even the darkest circumstances. The revelation that Shai Shen was not a person, but rather a repository of information crucial to the triads, reframed their mission, underscoring the stakes and the necessity for precision, courage, and strategic foresight. 3 years after the explosive events that bound them together, Chief Inspector Lee of the Hong Kong Police Force and Los Angeles Detective James Carter find themselves thrust back into a world of danger and deception. In Los Angeles, Chinese Ambassador Solon Han addresses the World Criminal Court, emphasizing the ongoing threat of the triads. Lee, loyal and vigilant, watches over Han as a silent guardian, while Carter has been relegated to traffic duty, his larger-than-life personality now subdued by bureaucratic punishment. Their worlds collide once again when an assassin strikes, targeting Han moments before he can reveal crucial information about the semi-mythical Shai Shen, a figure of immense significance within the Chinese mob. The shooter is revealed to be Kenji, Lee's long-lost foster brother, whose childhood bonds with Lee are now twisted by betrayal. Hesitation grips Lee as he confronts Kenji, torn between duty and family, and in that split second, Kenji vanishes into the chaos. Carter, alerted by the commotion over police radio, arrives just in time to witness Lee's dilemma and the aftermath of the failed assassination. Han is rushed to UCLA Medical Center, surviving the attempt on his life but left shaken. He entrusts his daughter, Soo-young, to Lee and Carter, urging them to uncover the truth behind the attack. Soo-young leads them to a local kung fu studio, where her father had left an envelope containing vital information, only to discover that the triads have already seized her belongings and are closing in on the hospital to finish their deadly mission. Racing against time, Lee and Carter intercept the hitmen at the hospital, navigating narrow corridors and relying on Lee's mastery of martial arts and Carter's unpredictable yet effective improvisation. After subduing the attackers, they interrogate one of the assailants, a man who speaks only French, forcing them to rely on Sister Agnes, a nun fluent in French, to extract information. With Soo-young's safety in mind, they transfer her to the protection of the French embassy, leaving her in the care of the ambassador and chairman of the World Criminal Court, Varden Renard. The sanctuary is short-lived. A car bomb nearly claims the lives of Renard and Soo-young, compelling Lee and Carter to follow leads to Paris, a city of lights that now conceals shadows of lethal intentions. Upon arrival, the duo encounters Commissaire Revy, a Parisian police officer whose disdain for Americans is matched only by his aggressive methods. Revy subjects them to a humiliating inspection, yet they persevere, driven by urgency and loyalty. Seeking guidance in a foreign land, they coerce George, a cynical Parisian taxi driver with anti-American sentiments, into navigating them through the labyrinthine streets toward a suspected triad hideout. While there, Carter's charm leads him to Genevieve, a captivating stage performer whose knowledge becomes crucial, while Lee falls prey to a trap set by Jasmine, a merciless mob assassin who feigns cooperation. Carter intervenes just in time, saving Lee and cementing the pair's unspoken bond as partners who rely on instinct and trust in equal measure. Their attempted escape is thwarted, and they are captured by Kenji's loyal men. Dragged through the sewers of Paris, where Kenji offers them a chilling ultimatum: leave the city and live, or defy him and face death. Lee, bound by principle and a sense of justice, refuses to abandon Soo-young and Han, igniting a desperate struggle from which he and Carter narrowly emerge victorious. Seeking respite and a chance to regroup, they retreat to a modest hotel. There, Lee reveals the painful history with Kenji, a story of orphaned childhood, brotherly bonds, and divergent paths that led to the present betrayal. Lee decides he must continue alone, leaving Carter to confront the reality of his own place in this perilous mission. Carter, initially disillusioned, is reinvigorated when he crosses paths with Genevieve, whose insight into the triad's operations becomes pivotal. The revelation comes: Shai Shen is not a single individual, but a list of high-ranking triad leaders, with Genevieve serving as the informant, who holds access to this critical intelligence, tattooed discreetly on the back of her head a secret that puts her life in immediate jeopardy. The pursuit intensifies as they race to protect Genevieve from capture, fending off attacks from Jasmine while relying on George's ingenuity and courage to intervene at key moments. Kenji, ever calculating, seizes Soo-young as leverage, demanding that Lee surrender Genevieve to save her. The inevitable confrontation is set at the Eiffel Tower, where the interplay of strategy, loyalty, and combat skills reaches its zenith. Carter, donning a disguise to impersonate Genevieve, brings levity and daring improvisation to the tense encounter. Lee faces Kenji in a dramatic duel, a clash of blades amid the dizzying height and intricate latticework of the tower. The fight is brutal and precise, each strike echoing with their shared past. When the safety net they fall upon is severed, Lee's instinct to protect prevails. Moved by his brother's unwavering moral compass, Kenji makes the ultimate sacrifice, letting go and plunging to his death, leaving Lee stricken with grief yet resolute in purpose. Meanwhile, Carter embodies resilience and cunning, engaging Kenji's remaining henchmen in a sequence of inventive combat, saving Soo-young from imminent danger, and confronting Jasmine with a mix of athletic prowess and irreverent humor. Jasmine meets her end in a decisive moment of poetic justice, and as the final triad members scatter, the threat seems momentarily quelled. However, Renard's treachery emerges, and he attempts to turn the situation to his advantage, threatening Genevieve and attempting to frame the heroes. George, an unexpected ally, delivers the fatal intervention, shooting Renard and neutralizing the threat. As the police swarm the scene, Revy attempts to claim credit, only to be foiled by Lee and Carter's impeccable timing and double-handed precision. The pair exit the fray, not with arrogance, but with camaraderie and understated celebration, their relief expressed through an exuberant, spontaneous dance to Edwin Starr's War, a joyful punctuation to chaos and conflict alike. The narrative seamlessly weaves together relentless action, deft humor, and intricate character dynamics, showcasing the juxtaposition of Lee's disciplined martial arts mastery and Carter's improvisational brilliance. The city of Paris transforms from a backdrop of sophistication to a labyrinth of danger, with every alleyway, hotel corridor, and sewer-escape amplifying the stakes. Themes of loyalty, brotherhood, sacrifice, and justice permeate each encounter, revealing not just the external battles against the triads, but internal confrontations with trust, morality, and the enduring bonds of family chosen or otherwise. Every twist and turn in the story emphasizes the delicate balance between skill and instinct, order and chaos, as Lee and Carter navigate a world where the line between ally and adversary is perpetually blurred. The film's choreography, blending hand-to-hand combat with environmental improvisation, reflects a meticulous attention to detail, honoring the physicality of Jackie Chan and the comic timing of Chris Tucker, while elevating the narrative to an immersive cinematic experience. The tension escalates through a combination of meticulously staged fights, high-speed pursuits, and strategic maneuvering. Every frame contributes to the growing stakes, whether through visual storytelling, the interplay of shadow and light in Parisian streets, or the fluidity of movement during intense combat sequences. Characters are given depth through their choices under pressure. Lee's unyielding ethical code, Carter's resilience and wit, Genevieve's courage, and even Kenji's tragic complexity, transforming what might have been a straightforward buddy cop narrative into a story rich with nuance, emotional resonance, and cinematic texture. Ultimately, the resolution combines catharsis with justice, allowing each character to confront their limitations, embrace their strengths, and reconcile their pasts with the present. The culmination at the Eiffel Tower serves as both literal and metaphorical apex, where sacrifice, ingenuity, and loyalty converge, providing an emotionally satisfying conclusion that honors the stakes established throughout. Carter's humor and bravado punctuate moments of tension, grounding the narrative in accessibility and relatability, while Lee's precision, discipline, and moral clarity offer a counterbalance that amplifies the film's dramatic weight. As the story closes, the audience is left with the image of two unlikely partners whose complementary skills, unwavering courage, and enduring friendship have overcome deception, danger, and loss. The narrative thrives on the interplay of character and circumstance, comedy and tension, choreography and emotion, delivering a cinematic experience that is as engaging in its human story as it is exhilarating in its action sequences. From the initial assassination attempt to the climactic confrontation and final victory, every moment serves the dual purpose of advancing plot and deepening character, resulting in a story that resonates beyond its immediate spectacle, offering insight into the enduring power of loyalty, ingenuity, and moral fortitude in a world beset by uncertainty and peril. After the adrenaline of the Eiffel Tower confrontation, Lee and Carter find themselves navigating the intricate aftermath, their minds racing as quickly as their bodies had just moved. The streets of Paris, though bathed in evening light, seem suddenly threatening, a city of romance now shadowed with danger and intrigue. Carter, ever the extrovert, breaks the tense silence with a quip about their improbable luck, his voice a mix of relief and bravado, but Lee's focus remains razor-sharp, scanning every alley, every crowd, every subtle movement. Genevieve, still visibly shaken, clings to their side, her delicate poise barely concealing the terror of having been so intimately enmeshed in triad machinations. The trio's first priority is ensuring Su Young's safety. She is escorted to a secure location, a nondescript apartment generously arranged by an ally within the French authorities who had quietly recognized the gravity of the threat. As Carter busies himself checking the perimeter and improvising security measures, Lee quietly interrogates Genevieve about the full extent of the triad's operations. The tension in her voice betrays the fear she cannot mask. The tattooed names on her head, once a subtle sign, now loom as the symbol of imminent death should the triads ever capture her again. Meanwhile, a more sinister layer of the conspiracy begins to reveal itself. Varden Renaud's betrayal is not an isolated act of corruption, it is emblematic of a network of deceit, running deep into the World Criminal Court itself. Documents and correspondences discovered in Renaud's offices hint at transactions, payments, and alliances between high-ranking officials and the triads that could destabilize the international legal framework protecting Chinese business and citizens abroad. Li's analytical mind pieces together a disturbing pattern. The triads' reach is global, and their operations are intertwined with diplomatic, economic, and criminal spheres in a way that transcends the immediate personal danger they've faced. Carter, initially more concerned with action than strategy, begins to grasp the magnitude of the threat when Li explains the implications. His usual humor becomes tempered with a seriousness that underscores the gravity of their situation. As they strategize their next moves, Li insists that they cannot act recklessly. Every confrontation must be calculated, every ally vetted. Their first lead directs them to a discreet warehouse along the Seine, a location rumored to be a triad logistical hub. The journey there is tense. Carter's wit provides small relief, but the undercurrent of danger never fades. Upon arrival, the scene is eerily silent. Li and Carter move with precision, surveying the premises for hidden dangers. The warehouse's interior reveals an unsettling sophistication: rows of crates, sophisticated communication equipment, and detailed records of illicit transactions. The evidence suggests the triads are orchestrating a multi-country operation, leveraging both fear and influence to consolidate power. Suddenly, an ambush erupts. Henchmen, armed and agile, surge from hidden compartments. The ensuing battle is both chaotic and cinematic, a blend of Li's disciplined martial arts, Carter's improvisational agility, and the environment itself, utilized with precision. Crates topple, lighting flickers, and glass shatters as the two detectives navigate the room, neutralizing threats with creative efficiency. Carter's audacious moves, using an overturned cart as a barricade, flipping over a stack of crates to take down multiple opponents, are juxtaposed with Li's controlled, almost surgical strikes. Amid the chaos, they uncovered documents indicating the triad's next planned attacks, including potential targets across Europe. The discovery elevates the mission from personal revenge and rescue to a broader imperative: dismantling a criminal network with tentacles that reach far beyond Paris. With the immediate threat neutralized, Li insists they return Genevieve and Su Young to a safe house, where they can regroup and plan their next steps. The women's fear is palpable. Every knock at the door, every distant shout, triggers anxiety that even Carter's jokes cannot completely dispel. Li, ever the protector, maintains a quiet vigilance, aware that any lapse could be catastrophic. It is here, in these quieter moments, that their humanity is revealed. Carter's light-hearted attempts to lighten the mood contrast with Li's solemn reflection, providing depth to the narrative and highlighting the enduring bond forged through shared danger. As night deepens, the narrative's tension escalates with intelligence, suggesting that Kenji's influence extends even beyond the deadliest confrontations they've faced. Though physically gone, his network of loyalists, embittered by his death, yet bound by fear and code, still operates with lethal efficiency. The realization strikes both Li and Carter with chilling clarity. The true battle is not merely surviving individual encounters, but systematically dismantling a sprawling criminal enterprise whose influence pervades multiple continents. The next phase of their mission takes them to the bustling heart of Parisian nightlife. Here, the camera or narrative focus shifts to a visually striking sequence, where neon lights and shadowed corners underscore the unpredictability of urban threats. Carter, ever the improviser, adopts an unorthodox approach, blending into crowds, using charm to extract information, and turning everyday objects into strategic tools. Li, meanwhile, operates in parallel, relying on observation, intuition, and martial expertise to intercept threats before they materialize. The narrative emphasizes the contrast between Carter's instinctive tactics and Li's disciplined strategy, illustrating their complementary skills and the necessity of trust. Amid the night's tension, they encounter additional figures of intrigue, informants whose loyalties are ambiguous, minor triad operatives seeking revenge, and local authorities who oscillate between ally and obstacle. Every interaction is laced with suspense, requiring careful negotiation, rapid assessment, and sometimes raw physical confrontation. The stakes are intensified by the knowledge that any misstep could expose Genevieve and Su Young to mortal danger, adding layers of psychological tension to the already intense physical challenges. As the dawn approaches, Li and Carter's investigation uncovers a hidden chamber beneath one of Paris's historical landmarks, a repository for documents, coded communications, and artifacts of triad influence. The chamber, constructed with meticulous care, symbolizes both the reach and cunning of their adversaries. Inside, Li deciphers coded messages, while Carter employs ingenuity to bypass security mechanisms, blending intellect and instinct in a partnership that has become the hallmark of their collaborative approach. Here, the narrative blends action with cerebral problem-solving, emphasizing that true heroism requires both physical prowess and mental acuity. Their discoveries paint a picture of an organization that has seamlessly integrated crime, diplomacy, and commerce into a single, malevolent network. The implications are staggering. Political figures are compromised, international trade routes manipulated, and lives endangered on multiple continents. The narrative tension rises, not only through immediate threats, but through the knowledge that the consequences of failure extend far beyond the personal. Lee and Carter recognize the gravity of their responsibility. They are no longer acting merely as detectives or bodyguards. They are custodians of justice in a delicate global balance. The day culminates in a meticulously orchestrated confrontation at a Parisian riverside quay, where triad operatives attempt to transport sensitive information via river barges. The ensuing sequence blends suspense, action, and strategy. Lee executes precision martial maneuvers to incapacitate multiple adversaries, while Carter improvises with agility and unorthodox tactics, utilizing the environment to maximum effect. Boats collide, ropes swing, and crates topple into the river, creating a choreography of danger that merges spectacle with narrative purpose. Through synchronized effort, the pair secures the documents, intercepting the planned distribution of sensitive intelligence. Exhausted but victorious, they retreat to a quiet safe house, reflecting on the scope of the operation and the resilience required to confront such pervasive criminal networks. Carter, loosening his usual humor to reveal moments of genuine introspection, remarks on the improbable nature of their journey and the unlikely bond that has carried them through near-impossible situations. Lee, stoic yet profoundly aware of the moral weight they carry, reinforces the importance of diligence, strategy, and integrity in facing adversaries whose power often rivals their own. The narrative arc closes this segment with the protagonists poised at a threshold. Victories have been won, yet the shadow of the triads lingers. Lee and Carter, tempered by the intensity of their trials, understand that the mission continues, that vigilance is eternal, and that their unique partnership, rooted in trust, complementary skill, and unwavering courage remains their greatest asset. Their journey is far from over, yet in the quiet aftermath, the narrative celebrates the human elements that define them: courage, loyalty, ingenuity, and the unspoken bond forged through adversity. The morning air in Paris is crisp and filled with the distant hum of traffic. Yet inside the safe house, tension hangs thick. Lee paces quietly, methodical and precise, reviewing every detail from the previous day's encounters. Carter, sprawled on a worn sofa with a half-empty coffee cup, watches him with a mix of admiration and exasperation, unable to resist a sarcastic remark. "You know, for a guy who fights like a machine, you sure think like one too," he says. Lee's gaze remains steady, unflinching, but there is a hint of acknowledgement in his eyes. Words are unnecessary. The gravity of their mission is mutual. Genevieve, still recovering from the psychological strain of her ordeal, sits across from them, her hands fidgeting with the hem of her sleeve. Su Young, more composed yet equally tense, occupies the corner of the room, silently observing the two men she has come to rely upon. Lee finally stops pacing and turns to address the group, his voice calm but firm. "We have the documents. We know the Triad's network, but they are patient. They strike when we least expect it. We must anticipate every move." Carter leans forward, suddenly serious, recognizing that the playful quips of yesterday will not save them today. "So what's the plan?" he asks, the usual bravado, stripped away by the weight of responsibility. Lee unfolds a map of Paris across the table, marked with several points of interest: the warehouse, the riverside quay, and several new locations identified from the documents. "These locations are not random," he explains. "Each is a hub, a node in their network. We must disrupt them systematically. We cannot allow them to regroup." The strategy is meticulous. Lee will coordinate intelligence gathering and infiltration, while Carter's improvisation and street savvy will provide flexibility in unpredictable situations. The women's safety is paramount, yet they will be active participants, contributing knowledge and insight from their unique positions. Their first target is a luxury hotel on the right bank, rumored to house the Triad's financial operatives. Posing as international auditors, Lee and Carter infiltrate the building, blending seamlessly into the environment. The hotel lobby is a study in opulence: marble floors, crystal chandeliers, and staff trained to notice even the slightest anomaly. Carter, ever the entertainer, distracts the concierge with exaggerated questions about local cuisine and obscure sightseeing tips, while Lee slips past unnoticed, his eyes scanning every hallway, elevator, and security camera. The choreography of their movements is precise, each step a careful balance between observation and action. Inside a lavish suite, they uncover ledgers and encrypted communications detailing the triad's financial flows across Europe. Carter improvises a method to extract data, using a combination of digital devices and sleight of hand that turns the tense operation into a display of ingenuity and audacity. Lee's approach is silent and methodical. Every interaction is measured, every movement deliberate. They are an unlikely pair, one spontaneous, one disciplined, but the synergy of their methods allows them to navigate the building with efficiency and minimal detection. The operation is nearly flawless. Yet, as they prepare to leave, a minor misstep, a door left ajar, a footstep on a carpet alerts security. A chase ensues through the hotel's labyrinthine corridors. Lee uses his martial arts to disable two guards silently, while Carter improvises with furniture, decorative objects, and even a potted plant to create obstacles. The tension is relentless, the stakes immediate. Capture would mean exposure not only of their identities, but also of the information they've painstakingly secured. They escape onto the bustling streets, blending into the morning crowd, their breaths heavy but controlled. The documents now in their possession provide critical insight. The triads are planning coordinated strikes across multiple cities, including London and Berlin, leveraging corruption and fear to achieve strategic advantage. Lee and Carter understand the magnitude of the threat. Failure is no longer an option. Their mission transcends personal vendetta or duty. It has become a matter of international security. With time against them, they establish a mobile command post in a discreet location overlooking the Seine. Maps, laptops, and communication devices are spread across tables, forming a temporary nerve center. Lee begins decrypting codes and cross-referencing the financial data, while Carter reaches out to contacts, blending charm and persuasion to gather intelligence from the Parisian underworld. Genevieve, still recovering but resilient, provides insight into the triad's social networks and operational methods, while Su Young assists in translating documents and cross-referencing names, her diligence essential to the effort. Hours pass with relentless focus. The city outside moves, unaware of the storm brewing within its heart. Lee identifies the next critical target, a private club frequented by high-ranking triad operatives and corrupt officials. Entry is perilous. Security is tight, and any miscalculation could result in catastrophic consequences. The plan is intricate. Carter will create a diversion, drawing attention while Lee infiltrates deeper to gather critical intelligence. Genevieve's knowledge of social etiquette and elite behavior ensures their presence appears natural, while Su Young monitors exits and communicates potential threats via secure channels. The operation begins at dusk. Carter, in flamboyant disguise, enters first, drawing attention with exaggerated gestures and loud interactions. Lee follows, blending into the background with practiced invisibility. Inside, the club is a study in decadence and danger. Dimly lit rooms, velvet drapes, and the hum of whispered conversations concealing lethal intent. Lee navigates carefully, observing interactions, noting individuals of interest, and silently neutralizing minor threats as necessary. Carter, meanwhile, turns the club into his stage, creating chaos that masks Lee's movements. The climax of the infiltration is tense and cinematic. Lee uncovers a secure vault containing documents and digital devices critical to the triad's European operations. As he extracts the materials, alarms suddenly trigger, a contingency designed to protect the network. Carter's diversion escalates, creating confusion and buying crucial seconds. The two converge to escape through service corridors, encountering a squad of triad enforcers. A meticulously choreographed battle unfolds. Lee's martial arts precision against multiple attackers. Carter's improvisational combat using environment and objects creatively, and both men covering each other seamlessly. Emerging onto the streets, victorious but exhausted, they regroup at the safe house. The documents secured reveal a pattern. The triad's next moves are predictable, but the stakes are higher than ever. Lee and Carter realize that a decisive confrontation is inevitable. Piecemeal operations are insufficient. The final phase must dismantle the leadership structure, eliminate key operatives, and secure Genevieve and Su Young from any remaining threats. As they plan, a sudden revelation shakes them. A hidden message within the documents indicates a mole within the French law enforcement, providing intelligence to the triads. Trust becomes a critical issue. The narrative tension is heightened, as Lee and Carter must now operate with caution, discerning ally from adversary. The mole's identity is obscured, requiring subtle investigation and careful observation. Every interaction, every conversation is analyzed for inconsistencies, revealing the sophistication and danger of their adversaries. Carter, despite fatigue, maintains vigilance, his humor now tempered with seriousness. "We're not just fighting them. We're fighting shadows," he observes, eyes scanning the room for anomalies. Lee, silent but attentive, nods slightly, recognizing the depth of truth in Carter's words. Genevieve and Su-young provide support, each contributing critical insight into the network, allowing Lee and Carter to devise a comprehensive plan for the final confrontation. Night falls over Paris, the city alive with lights and movement. Yet beneath its beauty, the threads of danger are woven tightly. Lee and Carter move to their positions, adopting roles of hunters and tacticians. The narrative reaches a crescendo. Every prior operation, every risk taken, every piece of intelligence converges into this decisive moment. They are no longer merely reacting. They are dictating the terms of engagement, shaping the battlefield according to their strategy and skill. The confrontation unfolds in a labyrinthine underground network, where triad operatives, armed and desperate, await. Lee's movements are precise, every strike calculated. Carter's improvisation adapts fluidly to the environment. The battle is intense, cinematic, and relentless, merging hand-to-hand combat, strategic positioning, and the use of surroundings as extensions of their skill. Crates, machinery, and shadows become tools and obstacles, creating a choreography of tension, action, and suspense. As the fight progresses, the mole is revealed, attempting to escape with critical documents. Lee intercepts, neutralizing the threat with calm efficiency. Carter secures Genevieve and Su-young, ensuring their safety amidst the chaos. The triad leadership, cornered and outmaneuvered, attempts one final desperate stand. Lee and Carter's coordination, honed through repeated trials, allows them to dismantle the operation systematically. Each move is deliberate, ensuring the maximum impact with minimal risk to innocents. The operation is concluded. The triad's European network is effectively dismantled. Key operatives are captured or neutralized, and Genevieve and Su-young are safe. Lee and Carter, though exhausted, share a quiet moment of relief. The bond forged through relentless danger solidified. Paris awakens to a city unaware of the life-and-death struggles that have taken place beneath its streets, a testament to the hidden heroism of those who operate in shadows. The narrative closes this chapter with reflection. The mission has tested every skill, every instinct, and every moral compass. Lee and Carter understand that their partnership is not merely effective because of complementary skills, but because of trust, respect, and unwavering commitment to justice. Their journey through danger, deception, and relentless pursuit of truth has revealed the complexities of human character, the fragility of trust, and the resilience required to confront the darkest elements of organized crime. As dawn breaks fully, they prepare to leave the city, knowing that while this battle is over, the nature of their work ensures that vigilance will always be necessary. The story, immersive and continuous, honors the intensity of action, the depth of strategy, and the humanity of those who confront danger, not for glory, but for justice, loyalty, and protection of the innocent. The city of Paris wakes slowly under the pale morning light, its streets damp from a lingering drizzle that reflects the golden hues of early sunlight. Lee and Carter move with quiet urgency, aware that even though they've temporarily crippled the triad's operations, their enemies are far from defeated. Each step they take is measured, cautious, yet determined. There is no room for error, no margin for hesitation. Genevieve and Su-young remain under protective watch, but Lee insists they remain informed and involved. Knowledge is power, he reminds them softly, eyes scanning the streets from their vantage point. Carter, sipping a bitter café noir, adds his own perspective, though tinged with humor, and coffee. Don't forget coffee. Always makes things easier. A brief smile flickers across Genevieve's face, a small, fleeting reprieve in the midst of danger. Their next move takes them to the heart of Paris' underground network, a series of abandoned warehouses along the Seine, now functioning as clandestine meeting points for triad operatives. Lee and Carter approach stealthily, taking advantage of shadows and alleyways, observing patrol patterns and security routines. This is no longer a simple reconnaissance mission. It is a precise, surgical strike designed to dismantle the triad's remaining infrastructure. Inside one warehouse, they discover encrypted files detailing the triad's plans for smuggling operations, financial laundering, and their coordination with corrupt officials across Europe. Carter, improvising with digital tools and quick thinking, begins extracting the files while Lee remains alert to the slightest sound, ready to neutralize any threat. The tension is palpable. One misstep could lead to disaster. Suddenly, a hidden guard emerges from the shadows. Weapon drawn, Lee reacts instantly, a fluid motion that is almost artistic in its execution, disarming the guard before he can even draw a shot. Carter, improvising as always, uses a nearby metal pipe to knock out another approaching enemy. The fight is chaotic, yet controlled. Each movement precise, a combination of skill, instinct, and timing, honed over years of experience. Once the immediate threat is neutralized, they regroup and analyze the newly extracted files. The intelligence reveals a shocking development. The triads are planning simultaneous attacks in multiple cities: London, Berlin, and Madrid, using sleeper cells and corrupt officials as leverage. The scale of the threat is unprecedented. Lee and Carter exchange a brief glance. The gravity of the situation settles over them like a heavy fog. They decide to split tasks. Carter will contact allies and coordinate with local law enforcement to prepare for potential attacks, while Lee focuses on tracking and intercepting key operatives. Genevieve and Su-young play active roles, analyzing the documents and providing insights based on their unique knowledge. This partnership is more than strategy. It is trust forged through shared danger and mutual respect. As night falls, Lee and Carter track a lead to an upscale nightclub in the Marais district, known to be frequented by triad fin. Entering the club, they blend seamlessly with the crowd, moving through pulsating lights, music, and laughter, all while maintaining acute awareness of their surroundings. Carter uses his charm to engage patrons, gathering information without raising suspicion, while Lee navigates the shadows, observing and preparing for confrontation. Inside a private lounge, they spot the target, a high-ranking triad lieutenant coordinating a meeting via encrypted devices. Lee moves with silent precision, intercepting messages and gathering intelligence, while Carter improvises distractions to keep the lieutenant occupied. The tension builds as the lieutenant becomes aware of anomalies, prompting a chase through the club, weaving between dancers, tables, and chandeliers. Lee and Carter coordinate seamlessly, combining strategy and spontaneity, neutralizing threats while preserving their cover. The confrontation escalates outside into the narrow streets of Paris, where rain begins to fall once more, adding a reflective sheen to the cobblestones. Lee's martial arts skills are unmatched, each strike calculated to incapacitate without unnecessary harm, while Carter's ingenuity turns the urban landscape into a series of improvised weapons and obstacles. The fight is cinematic in its choreography, a dynamic interplay of skill, environment, and relentless determination. After securing the lieutenant, they retreat to a safe location, extracting critical information that reveals the location of the Triad's primary European base, an old fortified chateau outside Paris. The structure is heavily guarded, with layers of security, surveillance, and loyal operatives. Lee studies the blueprints, formulating a plan that relies on precision, stealth, and the coordinated efforts of all involved. Carter, energized by the prospect of a decisive confrontation, prepares for improvisation, knowing that unpredictability will be their greatest ally. Genevieve and Su-young contribute actively, assisting with translations, social engineering, and coordination with allies across Europe. Their involvement is not passive. They are integral to the operation, each providing insights that Lee and Carter could not achieve alone. The stakes are higher than ever, and failure is not an option. The assault on the chateau is meticulously planned. Lee infiltrates the perimeter using a combination of stealth techniques and precise combat. Neutralizing guards silently, Carter creates diversions using the environment and spontaneous tactics to draw attention away from critical targets. Inside, the triad leaders, expecting the usual patterns of law enforcement intervention, are caught off guard by the coordinated, unpredictable assault. The tension is relentless, each moment charged with danger, each decision critical. During the operation, Lee encounters Kenji's closest remaining ally, formidable adversary whose skills rival his own. Their confrontation is intense, a blend of martial arts mastery, strategy, and emotional undercurrent, reflecting the complex history and moral dilemmas that have shaped their lives. Carter simultaneously navigates his own challenges, improvising against multiple attackers, utilizing quick thinking and the environment to overcome numerically superior forces. As the final confrontation reaches its peak, Lee and Carter succeed in neutralizing the triad leadership, dismantling their European network, and securing all critical intelligence. Genevieve and Su-young are safe, their courage and insight pivotal to the mission's success. The narrative tension resolves as law enforcement moves in, apprehending remaining operatives and restoring order. In the aftermath, Lee and Carter reflect on the journey, acknowledging the complexity, danger, and moral ambiguities they have faced. Their partnership, forged in adversity, emerges stronger, defined by trust, respect, and an unwavering commitment to justice. Genevieve and Su Young, though forever changed by their experiences, exhibit resilience, courage, and resourcefulness, completing the arc of the story with a sense of empowerment and agency. The cinematic resolution closes with a quiet moment on a Parisian rooftop, overlooking the Seine as dawn breaks. The city awakens, oblivious to the life and death struggles that have occurred beneath its surface. Lee and Carter, united by experience and mutual respect, prepare for the next chapter, understanding that vigilance, strategy, and courage will always be necessary in the fight against organized crime. Inside the safe house, Genevieve and Su Young review the intelligence gathered from the Chateau raid, tracing every connection, every loose thread. Lee observes silently, his mind constantly analyzing patterns, anticipating moves, calculating risks. Carter, restless as ever, paces the room, muttering ideas aloud, half plans, half jokes, though each contains kernels of genuine strategy. "Listen," Carter begins, gesturing wildly with a cup of cold coffee. "They're desperate. Desperate people do stupid things. If we can anticipate the stupid, we control the stupid. And then bam, we win." Lee arches an eyebrow, half amused, half tolerant. "Your coffee metaphors don't always translate to tactical superiority." "Carter," he replies, eyes scanning the map of Europe pinned on the wall, marked with triad operations and known safe houses. The tension is tangible. Every phone ping, every creak in the floor, sets nerves on edge. Lee reviews every movement, every known contact, cross-referencing intelligence with instinct. Carter, meanwhile, begins reaching out through his network of law enforcement allies, rallying contacts across borders, ensuring coordination in case of simultaneous triad operations. Their partnership, complementary in every way, is stronger than ever. Hours pass, and as dusk falls, they finalize their plan to intercept a final, coordinated triad strike aimed at destabilizing multiple cities. Lee takes the lead in orchestrating a precise infiltration into a key communication hub the triads use for encrypted directives. Carter positions himself strategically with local allies to cut off escape routes, secure perimeter containment, and provide improvisational support as required. Genevieve monitors communications, deciphering codes and identifying key operatives, while Su Young cross-checks travel routes and timing, ensuring that no detail is overlooked. The operation begins at twilight, shadows stretching long and distorted across Parisian rooftops. Lee moves with quiet precision, scaling walls, slipping through narrow gaps, neutralizing guards silently. Carter creates diversions using vehicles, makeshift barricades, and explosive distractions, drawing attention away from the primary target. The streets are alive with tension, the distant hum of traffic and faint voices blending into a background soundtrack of suspense. Inside the communication hub, Lee discovers a critical node of triad operations, containing information that could compromise lives across multiple countries if left unchecked. Kenji's remaining operatives, however, are present-trained, loyal, and desperate. What follows is an intense sequence of hand-to-hand combat, acrobatics, and precise timing. Lee moves fluidly, a perfect blend of martial arts mastery and instinctual reaction, while Carter leverages ingenuity, using the environment to his advantage. Overturned crates, electrical wiring, and narrow staircases become tools of improvisation and survival. The fight escalates, each confrontation more intense than the last. Lee faces one of Kenji's lieutenants, a man whose skill rivals his own. They move in a deadly dance across the floors, walls, and staircases, exchanging strikes and counterstrikes, testing both strength and strategy. Carter fends off multiple attackers simultaneously, his energy a whirlwind of movement and quick thinking. Even the smallest miscalculation could result in catastrophe. Genevieve, though not a combatant, plays a critical role in securing intelligence, relaying information, and ensuring the safety of the operation's periphery. Su Young, courageous beyond her years, coordinates extraction points for civilians, and ensures all escape routes remain secure. Their presence underscores the theme that courage and resourcefulness come in many forms, and that true strength is found in collaboration, not just in physical prowess. As the climax approaches, Lee confronts the final key operative, a man responsible for coordinating multiple attacks across Europe. The confrontation is tense, a psychological and physical duel as much as a fight. Lee leverages not only martial arts skill, but tactical insight, exploiting the man's predictability and hubris. Carter arrives at the perfect moment, improvising a decisive move that tips the balance in their favor. Together, their coordinated action neutralizes the threat completely. The aftermath is methodical. Triad operatives are apprehended, communications are shut down, and the network's infrastructure is dismantled. Law enforcement agencies across Europe coordinate simultaneous raids. Thanks to the intelligence Lee and Carter secured, the danger is contained, the threat eliminated, and the chain of command that could have wreaked havoc is broken. Exhausted, but resolute, Lee and Carter regroup with Genevieve and Su Young on a rooftop overlooking the Seine. The city's lights shimmer on the water, reflecting hope and the quiet victory of justice. Carter, ever the comic relief, even in the gravest moments, remarks, "You know, Lee, for all the chaos, I think we make a pretty good team. Paris might not know it, but it owes us a lot." Lee allows a rare smile, nodding in agreement. "We did what needed to be done. That is all that matters." They share a moment of reflection, not boastful, not triumphant in a traditional sense, but quietly satisfied that their efforts preserved lives and restored order. Genevieve and Su Young, once mere witnesses, now integral participants, are safe. Their courage and intelligence pivotal in achieving the outcome. As dawn breaks fully over Paris, the city breathes again. Life resumes, oblivious to the invisible battles fought in its alleys, warehouses, and rooftops. Lee and Carter, bonded not only by duty but by trust and respect, prepare to depart, knowing that the fight against organized crime is endless, yet strengthened by the victories they achieve together. Their partnership remains unbreakable, their resolve unwavering, and their commitment to justice clear. In the final moments, as the sun rises, they walk along the Seine, blending into the flow of the city. Not heroes in the eyes of the world, perhaps, but guardians nonetheless. Their journey has tested them, refined them, and reminded them that vigilance, strategy, and courage are eternal necessities. And so, as Paris awakens fully, the story closes not with fanfare, not with spectacle, but with the quiet understanding that the fight continues, and that courage, intelligence, and unwavering partnership will always shine brightest in the darkest of times. Lee and Carter do not simply rest. They study, they plan, and they anticipate. Every intercepted message, every minor detail about the Triad's network is catalogued, each thread analyzed for weakness. The room hums with concentration, illuminated by the glow of monitors and scattered papers. The quiet punctuated by Carter's occasional muttered observations, half humor, half insight. Carter's voice breaks the silence. "You know, Lee, these guys think they're clever. But clever doesn't always beat experience." Lee, focused on the encrypted map of Triad operations, barely nods. "It's not about cleverness. It's about predictability. Every man follows patterns, even if he doesn't realize it." Carter grins. "Then, let's make them predictable." Outside, Paris moves in oblivious rhythm, taxis winding through narrow streets, cafes stirring to life, and the occasional distant siren punctuating the city's pulse. But for Lee and Carter, every second is a potential threat. They move silently to the rooftop, surveying the city from above. Through binoculars, they watch for unusual activity, vehicles that seem out of place, shadows that linger too long. Every detail matters. The Triads are not idle. In the hidden corners of the city, operatives, reconvening, strategizing their next move. The threat is real, urgent, and deadly. But Lee and Carter anticipate it. Their preparation is meticulous. Carter coordinates with local police units, ensuring checkpoints and surveillance are in place, while Lee traces the enemy's potential paths, deducing where they might strike next. Genevieve monitors communications, detecting anomalies and decoding messages, her expertise vital in keeping the team one step ahead. Su Young contributes with logistical oversight, mapping routes and timing operations. Her composure and intelligence a stabilizing force amid tension. The first confrontation occurs in a shadowed courtyard near the Seine. A small team of Triad operatives attempts to intercept a critical courier carrying sensitive information. Lee and Carter, anticipating the ambush, move with precision. The fight is fast and brutal. Lee's martial arts flow like water. Strikes calculated, yet fluid, each movement designed to neutralize threats without unnecessary risk. Carter uses his ingenuity and environment to create advantage overturned carts. Scaffolding, and even nearby bicycles, become tools of defense and offense. Despite being outnumbered, Lee and Carter controlled the situation, exploiting every weakness and opportunity. Genevieve provides real-time updates, guiding them through blind spots and entrances, while Su Young secures the perimeter and ensures civilians remain unharmed. The courtyard becomes a dynamic battlefield, tension rising with every second. By the end of the engagement, the operatives are subdued or fleeing, their plans temporarily thwarted. But this is only the beginning. The team knows the triads will escalate, their desperation driving increasingly bold and dangerous actions. They move quickly to the next objective, a heavily guarded safe house where the triads store critical intelligence. The journey is fraught with danger. Narrow streets, bustling markets, and shadowed alleys all conceal potential threats. Carter's humor breaks the tension intermittently, but even his jokes are calculated, keeping morale high while maintaining vigilance. Inside the safe house, the confrontation is intense. Lee moves silently, neutralizing threats with precision, while Carter improvises with whatever tools are at hand: fire extinguishers, ropes, and even the environment itself. The operatives resist, but the team's coordination and strategy leave little room for escape. Genevieve uncovers encrypted files, translating and extracting crucial data, while Su Young coordinates extraction points and ensures that all entrances and exits are monitored. The tension peaks as they discover a hidden plan, detailing coordinated attacks across multiple European cities. The timeline is tight, the danger imminent. Lee and Carter realize that the final confrontation must be decisive and flawless. Every step must be calculated. Failure is not an option. They communicate silently, eyes and gestures conveying strategy with precision. Carter, ever adaptable, prepares contingencies, knowing that improvisation may be necessary at any moment. As night falls, the city's lights reflect off the Seine, creating a glittering, deceptive calm. The team moves toward the final location, a fortified building where the Triad's leadership is coordinating the attacks. The approach is tense, every shadow a potential threat, every sound amplified by the night's silence. Lee's martial arts skill, Carter's ingenuity, Genevieve's intelligence, and Su Young's logistical planning converge in perfect synchronization. The ensuing battle is cinematic in scope. Lee's movements are fluid, strikes precise, neutralizing threats with minimal wasted energy. Carter improvises traps and diversions, creating chaos among the triads while protecting civilians. Genevieve monitors communications, guiding the team to avoid ambushes. Su Young's strategic oversight ensures that every movement is calculated and controlled. Finally, they confront the triad leader orchestrating the attacks. The duel is tense, a blend of martial arts mastery, strategy, and psychological insight. Lee exploits patterns, reading movements, anticipating strikes, and turning aggression against the adversary. Carter provides critical support, improvising at crucial moments to tip the balance. Genevieve and Su Young ensure that the surrounding environment is controlled, preventing reinforcements from interfering. The confrontation ends decisively. The triad leader is captured, intelligence secured, and the network dismantled. Coordination with law enforcement ensures simultaneous arrests across multiple cities, neutralizing the broader threat. The danger is contained, the threat eliminated, and the city breathes again. Exhausted but resolute, Lee, Carter, Genevieve, and Su Young reflect on the victory. The streets of Paris remain alive with unsuspecting life, oblivious to the invisible battles fought in its shadows. Their partnership, forged in adversity, is stronger than ever. Courage, strategy, and trust have prevailed. The team departs the rooftop overlooking the Seine as dawn breaks. Paris awakens fully, the lights reflecting on the water, serene yet resilient. Lee and Carter walk side by side, quiet and reflective. Not heroes by public measure, perhaps, but guardians nonetheless. Their journey reminds them that vigilance is eternal, courage essential, and that partnership, true, unwavering, remains the strongest weapon against chaos. Lee and Carter walk along the Seine, their expressions calm but minds alert. The events of the previous night still lingered: the capture of the triad leader, the dismantling of the network. But there is no time to relax. The city's pulse is unpredictable, and they know the triads have contingencies they might yet activate. Carter breaks the silence, stretching his arms. You know, Lee, sometimes I think the city itself is alive. Streets, alleys, bridges, they're all watching. They notice every misstep. Lee gives a faint nod, scanning the crowds. Observation is everything. Even the smallest detail can be the difference between control and chaos. Carter smirks. You always make it sound like a chess game. Lee's eyes narrow slightly. Because it is. And in chess, A single piece moved carelessly can cost the king. They reach a small cafe where Genevieve is waiting, her demeanor calm but alert. Su Young arrives shortly after, carrying documents and reports from the previous operations. The four gather in a corner booth, their conversation hushed, deliberate. Maps are spread out, communications devices passed around, each member contributing insights and analysis. Genevieve points to the map, indicating locations of prior incidents. The network is fractured, but residual cells remain active. They are likely regrouping, testing vulnerabilities, seeking revenge. Su Young adds, "We intercepted messages, hinting at a coordinated plan for the upcoming week. The attacks aren't over, they've just shifted tactics." Carter leans back, arms crossed, thinking aloud. "Then we need to hit them before they hit anyone else. Preemptive strike. Lee, you and I take the lead." Lee nods. "We coordinate. Precision over force. Every move calculated, every target isolated. No room for error." The team moves quickly, leaving the cafe. Paris unfolds around them. Tourists wandering, morning vendors arranging their stalls, and street performers adding color to the day. Yet behind the mundane rhythm, danger lurks. They navigate through alleyways and backstreets, avoiding major roads, relying on Lee's keen observation and Carter's intuitive sense of timing. Every shadow, every passerby, is considered a potential threat. They reach the first target, an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of the city. Intelligence indicates it houses operatives who survived the previous night's disruption. Lee signals Carter, a subtle gesture that sets their plan in motion. Moving silently, they breach the perimeter. Inside, dim light casts long shadows across crates and debris. The confrontation is swift and efficient. Lee's martial arts precision is flawless, each strike calculated to neutralize the enemy without unnecessary chaos. Carter uses his environment, improvising weapons from pipes, chains, and loose boards. The operatives fight back, but the combination of skill, strategy, and teamwork overwhelms them. Genevieve monitors communications, intercepting calls and messages, ensuring no reinforcements are alerted. Su Young coordinates from the command post, directing them to exits and monitoring surrounding streets. Once the operatives are secured, they extract information detailing the triad's next moves. Plans for financial sabotage, high-profile kidnappings, and strategic attacks are revealed. Lee studies the documents carefully. They're expanding beyond the city, targeting international interests. "We need to disrupt these operations at the source." Carter nods, adjusting his tie with a practiced motion. "Then let's pack our bags." Lee, "Paris isn't enough. We're going global." The team moves with urgency, securing transportation and preparing for rapid deployment. They travel through the city, avoiding the predictable routes and relying on backroads and hidden passages. Even ordinary vehicles are converted into tactical tools, inconspicuous yet strategically advantageous. Their presence remains invisible, each move calculated to maintain surprise. Their next lead brings them to a luxury hotel where a known triad financier is believed to be staying. Surveillance is established discreetly. The team observes patterns, noting security rotations, staff movements, and visitor behaviors. Carter makes light observations, breaking tension with humor, yet every word carries insight. "Lee, I'd say the guy thinks he's untouchable." Classic arrogance. "That's where we find our advantage." Lee's expression is unreadable, focused entirely on the operation. Arrogance blinds, and the blind are predictable. Night falls, and the team executes the infiltration. Using stealth and timing, Lee and Carter enter the hotel undetected. Shadows are allies, silence is a weapon. Lee moves like a shadow himself, neutralizing security without detection. Carter improvises, creating distractions and diversions, guiding guards away from critical points. The target is located in a private suite. The confrontation is intense. The financier resists, attempting to call for help, but Carter intercepts the attempt, destroying the device without alerting others. Lee confronts the financier directly, blending martial skill with psychological pressure. "The choices you've made," Lee intones, "endanger countless lives. There is only one path forward: cooperation." Reluctantly, the financier complies, providing crucial data and contact lists that reveal the triad's international operations. Meanwhile, outside, Genevieve and Su Young maintain perimeter security, intercepting communications and monitoring potential threats. They act as the eyes and ears, ensuring the operation's success. Their coordination is flawless, each movement synchronized with the others. With new intelligence secured, the team withdraws from the hotel and reconvenes at a safe location. Maps are updated, routes recalculated, and new targets identified. The threat is no longer confined to Paris. It extends to multiple cities across Europe. Lee and Carter discuss strategy, balancing speed with caution. Every decision is weighted, every risk considered. The next operation involves a coordinated strike across 3 cities simultaneously. Timing is critical, precision paramount. Lee instructs Carter, "We split. I'll handle the main cell. You intercept secondary targets." Genevieve and Su Young monitor and provide intelligence. Synchronization is everything. Carter grins, a mixture of excitement and determination in his eyes. "Then let's make history." Lee. The cities are illuminated under the night sky as operations commence. Lee moves through narrow alleys and abandoned buildings, his every step silent, calculated. Carter navigates bustling streets, blending into the environment, improvising traps and diversions to control the flow of enemies. Genevieve coordinates communications, tracking movements, decoding messages, and guiding both operatives in real time. Su Young manages logistics, ensuring extraction points and contingencies are ready. The first confrontation erupts in a shadowed industrial district. Lee neutralizes threats with fluid, precise martial movements, his focus absolute. Carter improvises, turning everyday objects into tools of control, creating chaos among the triads while protecting civilians. Genevieve's real-time intelligence prevents ambushes, and Su Young ensures exits are secure. By the time the authorities arrive, the threat is contained. The operation successful. Simultaneously, secondary operations across the other cities are executed with equal precision. Each cell of the triads is intercepted, leaders captured, plans disrupted. The synchronization of the team's efforts is flawless, demonstrating not only skill but the power of trust, strategy, and coordination. As the night ends, Lee, Carter, Genevieve, and Su Young regroup. Exhausted but resolute, they surveyed the cityscape from a high vantage point. Lights reflect off the river, serene yet deceptive. Their mission, though far from over, has achieved a critical victory. Carter breaks the silence, a hint of relief in his voice. "You know, Lee, sometimes I think we make this look too easy." Lee's expression remains calm, but a subtle smile touches his lips. Easy is the illusion. The reality is discipline, observation, and timing. Genevieve nods in agreement. And trust. Without trust, none of this works. Su Young adds, "We move forward together, anticipating threats before they arise. That is our strength." They depart the rooftop as dawn begins to break, the city waking around them, unaware of the invisible battle just fought in its shadows. Their partnership, honed through adversity, remains unbroken. Courage, intelligence, and loyalty have carried them through. And though the days ahead promise further challenges, one thing is certain: they are ready. Paris awakens in its usual rhythm, unaware of the storm that had passed through its streets the previous night. Lee, Carter, Genevieve, and Su Young regroup in the secluded loft, the space converted into a temporary command center. Sunlight filters through tall windows, illuminating the maps, blueprints, and scattered devices that litter the table. The room is quiet, except for the soft hum of computers and radios, each member focused on analyzing the information from the previous operations. Lee studies a series of intercepted communications, his eyes scanning every word, every pattern. The triads are resourceful, more than we anticipated. These communications suggest a secondary network designed to operate independently if the primary leaders are neutralized. They're adapting, evolving. Carter leans back in his chair, stretching, but his gaze is sharp. "You mean they're like a virus? Cut one node, and it multiplies somewhere else. We've got to anticipate where they'll strike next." Genevieve points to a series of locations on the map, highlighting potential hubs of activity. There are 4 high-risk areas across Europe. 2 in Paris, 1 in Brussels, and 1 in Milan. If we don't move quickly, they'll regroup and escalate. Su Young nods. "We need to coordinate with local authorities in each city, but carefully. Triad infiltration is deep, and leaks could compromise everything. The plan takes shape with meticulous precision. Lee and Carter will move in tandem, handling the primary operations in Paris, while Genevieve and Su Young manage intelligence and coordination. Their goal is clear: dismantle the secondary network before it can execute any attacks. Every move is timed, every route considered. The room is filled with quiet tension, the kind that comes with knowing lives hang in the balance. By late afternoon, they are ready. Vehicles are loaded, equipment checked, and disguises prepared. Lee and Carter leave first, moving through Paris with practiced stealth. They navigate narrow alleys, side streets, and shadowed courtyards, each step measured, each breath controlled. The city around them pulses with ordinary life, masking the tension that hums beneath the surface. Their first target is a discreet safe house near the Seine. The building appears abandoned, but Lee's trained eyes detect subtle signs of occupancy: faint shadows, slight movements, and the quiet hum of a generator. Carter peers around the corner, lowering his voice. "Looks like we've got company, and not the friendly kind." Lee nods, signaling to proceed. They enter with silent precision, Lee neutralizing guards with controlled strikes, while Carter improvises traps to prevent reinforcements from intervening. Inside, they discover a cache of weapons, communications, equipment, and encrypted documents, detailing planned triad operations across the continent. Lee meticulously examines the materials, noting every detail. These are the blueprints for a coordinated series of strikes. They're targeting political figures, financial institutions, and public events. The scale is larger than we imagined. Carter whistled low, eyes wide. So this is bigger than just Paris. We're talking international. As they extract the intelligence, an alarm silently triggers in the safe house. Reinforcements arrive faster than anticipated. A tense firefight ensues in the dim corridors, Lee's martial arts and Carter's improvisational skills blending seamlessly. Each strike, each maneuver is precise, aimed at subduing the attackers while avoiding casualties among potential bystanders. Genevieve, monitoring remotely, intercepts communications to delay backup, while Su Young tracks all exits to ensure a safe extraction. After neutralizing the threat, the team retreats to a predetermined extraction point. Lee and Carter disappear into the Parisian streets, blending with the crowds, their movements fluid and unobtrusive. They rendezvous with Genevieve and Su Young in a small, inconspicuous apartment, the adrenaline of the mission still coursing through their veins. The documents are examined, revealing connections between multiple triad cells, operating in tandem across Europe. Lee maps out the next steps. "We move to Brussels first. The triads have a major node there. It's critical we dismantle it before they can coordinate with their other cells." Carter leans against the wall, arms crossed, so it's a race against time. Classic us. Genevieve smiles faintly, tension tempered with resolve. "And precision is key. Any misstep could alert the others." "We cannot underestimate them," Su Young adds. "We'll need local contacts, operatives who can provide underground support without compromising the operation." The team departs for Brussels under the cover of night. Crossing borders and navigating unfamiliar cities, they rely on a combination of intelligence, intuition, and local cooperation. Each city presents unique challenges: unfamiliar streets, language barriers, and security protocols. Yet their synergy remains unbroken, each member complementing the other's strengths. In Brussels, they locate the triad cell operating in a high-rise office building. Surveillance is established discreetly, identifying guard rotations, security cameras, and points of entry. Carter comments, "We exploit what is not obvious. Strength is often a liability. Rigidity makes them predictable." The infiltration begins at midnight. Lee moves with silent precision, neutralizing guards before they can raise alarm. Carter improvises distractions, triggering alarms in areas opposite their approach to draw attention away. Genevieve monitors communications, relaying updates and intercepting attempts to call reinforcements. Su Young coordinates entry and exit points, ensuring that every step is accounted for. They discover encrypted files and ledgers, detailing financial transactions, safe houses, and planned operations. The scale of the network is staggering, with tentacles reaching into politics, commerce, and law enforcement. Lee meticulously catalogs everything, knowing that each detail could prevent the next attack. Carter, while playful in demeanor, remains sharp, spotting hidden threats and improvising solutions with remarkable efficiency. Suddenly, an ambush is sprung by triad operatives who had anticipated the intrusion. A chaotic confrontation ensues, with Lee engaging multiple attackers simultaneously, blending acrobatics with martial prowess. Carter uses the environment to his advantage, turning elevators, loose cables, and furniture into tactical tools. The conflict is intense, but coordinated teamwork allows them to overcome the attackers and secure the building. Once the immediate threat is neutralized, the team retreats to a safe house outside the city. Exhaustion sets in, but there is no time for rest. New intelligence points to the final triad hub in Milan, the node responsible for coordinating operations across Europe. Lee outlines the final phase. Milan is the epicenter. Dismantling it will cripple the network. We must proceed with utmost precision. As they travel, tension rises. Each city, each encounter has honed their skills, Yet the stakes increase with every operation. Carter reflects. It's been a long road, Lee, from the streets of LA to Paris, Brussels, and now Milan. Sometimes I wonder if the world even knows the battles we fight in the shadows. Lee responds quietly. Eyes forward, they may not. But the world is safer because of it. That is enough. Genevieve adds. And it's never just about the battles. It's about the people we protect, the lives we preserve. Every action has meaning. Arriving in Milan, under the cover of darkness, they survey the cityscape, from a vantage point atop a historic building. Lights flicker below, a mixture of residential, commercial, and public spaces. The Triad Hub is heavily guarded, blending seamlessly with surrounding structures. Lee studies the layout, calculating entry points, guard patterns, and possible contingencies. Carter, pacing slightly, murmurs, "This is it, Lee. The heart of the beast." The infiltration begins at nightfall. Lee and Carter move through shadowed streets, using rooftops and alleyways to approach undetected. Each guard neutralized, each camera bypassed, brings them closer to their objective. Inside, the Triad Hub is a labyrinth of offices, storage rooms, and security checkpoints. Genevieve monitors remotely, guiding them through digital surveillance feeds, while Su-young manages coordination, relaying updates and adjusting plans in real time. The confrontation inside the hub is tense and relentless. Lee engages multiple operatives, blending martial skill with strategic precision. Carter improvises with environmental tools, creating diversions and securing pathways. The Triad leaders, cornered yet defiant, attempt negotiation, but Lee remains unwavering. Your reign ends tonight. There is no escape, no advantage. Every plan you devised will crumble. With the hub secured and intelligence extracted, the team moves to ensure the safety of key operatives and civilians, potentially caught in the crossfire. The mission culminates in a high-stakes standoff on the rooftop, where Lee and Carter neutralize the final threat. Genevieve and Su-young coordinate extraction and secure communication lines, ensuring no loose ends remain. As dawn breaks over Milan, the team surveys the city, victorious yet contemplative. The Triad network is fractured, its operations disrupted, and lives protected. Lee and Carter exchange a brief nod, an unspoken acknowledgement of their shared triumph and enduring partnership. Carter finally breaks the silence, a grin on his face. You know, Lee, for all the chaos, for all the fights, there's nothing quite like this feeling. We did it. Lee, his gaze steady, replies, victory is only meaningful when it is hard-won. We honor those we protect by being vigilant, precise, and unwavering. Genevieve and Su-young smile, the weight of the past days lifting, if only slightly. The mission across Europe concludes, but their vigilance remains. Paris, Brussels, Milan. They are temporary theaters in a larger battle against unseen threats. For now, the team rests, prepares, and reflects, knowing that the shadows they fight against are always shifting, always evolving. And as long as they stand together, no darkness is insurmountable, no danger inevitable. Weeks have passed since the intense operations across Paris, Brussels, and Milan. The streets of Europe have returned to their ordinary rhythm. Yet the echoes of the battles fought in shadow linger in the minds of Lee and Carter. Their temporary safe house, tucked away in the outskirts of Milan, hums with quiet tension. Maps are spread across tables, photos of suspects pinned to walls, and laptops display streams of intercepted communications. The air is thick with anticipation and the lingering fatigue of relentless travel, yet there is no room for complacency. Lee pores over a dossier, the details of the Triad networks meticulous and complex. Each connection, each transaction, each piece of intelligence tells a story of coordination and discipline that belies the chaos they seem to operate in. They're not just isolated groups, Lee mutters, tracing lines with a pen. They operate as an organism. Cut one node, and another immediately adapts. But now, with the Milan hub dismantled, we have the leverage. Carter lounges on a worn chair, feet on the table, shaking his head. Leverage. Man, I'm tired of leverage. I want results. We want them off the streets, locked up, and not walking free to plot again. Genevieve sits at the corner, her fingers lightly tapping the keyboard, eyes scanning communications between unknown operators. The network is splintered, yes, but not defeated, she explains. Some cells are laying low, waiting for signals. They're watching, observing, and learning from our moves. We need to anticipate their next step. Su-young, standing near a window, watches the city outside. Her expression is calm but thoughtful. We need to protect those most at risk. Political figures, law enforcement officials, civilians. Their next target could be anyone. The team decides to split operations. Lee and Carter will continue to handle fieldwork, identifying and neutralizing active threats. Genevieve and Su Young will remain in Milan, coordinating intelligence, tracking communications, and feeding real-time updates. Each member understands their role, their responsibilities, and the delicate balance required to ensure both operational success and personal safety. Their first mission in this next phase leads them to Lyon, France. A prominent triad informant is suspected of providing logistical support for weapons trafficking. Lee and Carter arrive under the cover of night, blending seamlessly with the local populace. The streets are alive with nightlife, music spilling from cafes, and the faint scent of roasted chestnuts drifting from street vendors. Yet beneath the surface, danger lurks, unseen and calculated. The target building is an old warehouse, its facade blending into the industrial district. Lee studies the structure from across the street, noting guard patterns, potential entrances, and structural weaknesses. Carter leans in, whispering, "It's like a fortress, disguised as a storage unit. How many bad guys do you think are in there?" Lee shrugs slightly, calm and measured. "Enough to make mistakes. That is what we rely on." Infiltration begins with practiced precision. Lee moves silently through shadows, dispatching guards with controlled strikes, each movement fluid and deliberate. Carter improvises with the environment, using crates and hanging pipes to create diversions, funneling enemies into blind spots. The warehouse echoes with muffled sounds of struggle, each footstep and muffled shout accounted for in the team's mental map of the building. Inside, they discovered detailed ledgers and communication devices, evidence of ongoing operations. Lee meticulously examines the documents, noting names, addresses, and planned transactions. Carter's eyes widen as he scans the digital records. "Man, these guys are moving serious money in arms. This is bigger than we thought." Lee nods without looking up, his focus unbroken. Bigger networks, bigger threats, bigger responsibilities. Suddenly, an alarm triggers. Reinforcements arrive faster than anticipated, descending from staircases and hidden passageways. The warehouse becomes a chaotic battlefield. Lee's martial arts prowess is on full display, neutralizing multiple adversaries simultaneously. Carter combines his street-smart improvisation with tactical cunning, using walls, hanging cables, and crates to keep the attackers off balance. Each confrontation is a dance of precision and instinct, their synergy honed from years of partnership. Genevieve monitors remotely, intercepting communications to delay reinforcements and provide the duo with real-time intelligence. Su Young coordinates with local authorities, ensuring civilian areas are avoided and potential casualties minimized. The operation is tense, relentless, and exhausting, yet executed with the exacting precision that has become the hallmark of their team. After neutralizing the immediate threat, Lee and Carter extract the intelligence and retreat to a predetermined safe location. The documents reveal planned trafficking routes, hidden stashes, and names of key operatives. Lee notes the information with meticulous care, understanding that this intelligence could prevent multiple future attacks across Europe. Carter slumps in a chair, exhausted but satisfied. "You know, Lee, for all the fancy fighting and martial arts, it's this stuff that saves lives, not just the punches, but knowing what's coming next." Lee gives a slight nod, eyes scanning the documents. Preparation and foresight are as critical as action. The next phase of operations focuses on Marseille, where a high-ranking triad lieutenant has been coordinating a series of illicit activities, including smuggling and cybercrime. Lee and Carter arrive under cover, navigating narrow streets and crowded marketplaces. They observe the lieutenant's movements, studying routines, patterns, and vulnerabilities. The city, with its winding alleys, port districts, and crowded squares, presents both opportunity and risk. The infiltration is complex, requiring patience, observation, and split-second decisions. Lee and Carter move through back alleys, hidden passages, and rooftops. Their movements are synchronized, each anticipating the other's actions. Lee neutralizes guards silently, while Carter improvises distractions and manipulates the environment to their advantage. The lieutenant's security is tight, but predictable patterns allow them to anticipate movements and plan effective engagement. Inside the target location, they uncover evidence of extensive criminal activity. Ledgers detailing illicit transactions, communication logs between triad cells, and digital files outlining future operations. Lee meticulously records each piece of information, aware of the implications for both local and international security. Carter, despite his exhaustion, continues to improvise, spotting hidden threats and improvising solutions to obstacles in real. Suddenly, the lieutenant's personal security activates an alarm, triggering a rapid response from reinforcements. The ensuing confrontation is chaotic and intense. Lee engages multiple attackers with precise martial arts techniques, while Carter uses the environment creatively to neutralize threats. The warehouse echoes with the sounds of struggle, shouts, and the controlled chaos of tactical combat. Genevieve and Su Young provide critical support, intercepting communications and coordinating extraction routes. The operation is relentless, testing their stamina, focus, and teamwork. Yet, after an exhausting struggle, the team emerges victorious, securing the lieutenant and extracting critical intelligence that could disrupt triad operations across southern Europe. As dawn breaks over Marseille, Lee and Carter regroup with Genevieve and Su Young. The streets are quiet now, the city unaware of the battle that had raged in its shadows. Lee studies the newly acquired intelligence, understanding its significance. We've struck a heavy blow, but the network is resilient. Their reach is extensive, and pockets of resistance remain. Carter, ever the optimist, smirks. Yeah, but they're starting to run out of luck. Every move we make, every cell we take down, pushes them closer to collapse. The team takes a brief moment to rest, reflecting on the intensity of the past weeks. Every city, every confrontation, every strategic decision has brought them closer to dismantling the triad network. Yet, the war is far from over. The shadows they fight against are ever shifting, evolving, and adapting. Each victory is a step, each intelligence report a guide, and each confrontation a test of skill, courage, and resilience. Plans are made for the next phase, targeting triad operations in Barcelona and Lisbon, where the network's influence extends into both organized crime and financial sectors. The journey ahead promises more danger, more strategy, and more challenges that will test the limits of Lee, Carter, and their allies. As the team prepares to move, a quiet determination settles over them. Lee adjusts his stance, eyes scanning the horizon. Every operation, every city, every threat, it all leads to the same goal: protecting lives, dismantling corruption, and ensuring justice prevails. Carter nods, a mixture of exhaustion and resolve in his expression. Then, let's get to work. The night is ours, and the fight isn't over yet. Lee and Carter arrived first, staking out the designated zone near the port district. Shipping containers stacked high formed a labyrinth of steel, offering both cover and hazard. Lee's eyes scanned the area with a hawk-like precision, noting guard rotations, camera placements, and likely escape routes. Carter, ever the comic relief yet razor-sharp when needed, crouched behind a stack of crates. Man, all this steel and concrete, and somehow they make it feel like a playground for bad guys. Lee shot him a sharp glance, but didn't comment, his focus unbroken. Genevieve, monitoring from a secure location, intercepted communications between triad cells. Her fingers flew across the keyboard, tracing messages, deciphering codes, and relaying critical information to the field team. Su Young coordinated with local authorities under strict instructions. No direct confrontation yet, only intelligence gathering. The plan was simple in theory: infiltrate the port, locate the lieutenant, extract information, and avoid unnecessary casualties. In practice, it was a high-stakes game where one mistake could prove fatal. The infiltration began in the early hours, when the port was quiet. The only sounds the distant hum of cargo cranes and the occasional call of seagulls. Lee and Carter moved with precision, blending into shadows, their movements synchronized, as if guided by an unspoken rhythm. Lee neutralized a lone guard silently, using a combination of acrobatics and martial arts that made each motion look effortless. Carter, improvising with crates and chains, created diversions that drew attention away from Lee's path. Every action was calculated, yet fluid, as if instinct and strategy merged into one. Inside a warehouse, they discovered a hidden office filled with ledgers, computer terminals, and communication devices. The Triad lieutenant had been overseeing multiple illegal operations, drug shipments, arms transfers, and financial laundering. Lee meticulously documented everything, aware that each file could prevent future attacks and dismantle a critical piece of the network. Carter examined the computers, bypassing digital locks with a mixture of ingenuity and luck, extracting encrypted files and sending them to Genevieve for analysis. Their success, however, was short-lived. Reinforcements arrived unexpectedly, flooding the warehouse from multiple entrances. The ensuing battle was chaotic. Lee's martial arts were on full display as he dispatched multiple attackers with swift precision. Carter used the environment creatively, swinging from pipes, using crates as shields, and turning simple objects into defensive weapons. The air was thick with tension, every strike and movement a matter of life and death. Outside, Genevieve monitored communications, redirecting reinforcements and providing real-time intel. Su-young coordinated evacuation routes for any civilians in danger, ensuring the chaos remained contained to the warehouse. The battle raged for what felt like hours. Yet every action by Lee and Carter was deliberate, controlled, and effective. Eventually, the immediate threat was neutralized, the lieutenant captured, and critical intelligence secured. Exiting the warehouse, Lee and Carter regrouped, breathing heavily but alert. The streets of Barcelona were waking now, unaware of the violent struggle that had occurred in the shadows. Lee examined the files, noting the broader implications. They're coordinated, disciplined, and adaptable. Every cell, every leader, has contingency plans. But we have leverage now. Carter shook his head, a mixture of relief and exhaustion evident. Leverage, yes, but it's only a matter of time before they adapt again. We need to stay ahead, anticipate every move. The team took a brief moment to rest, regrouping at a safe location overlooking the port. Genevieve continued decrypting files, uncovering patterns in financial transactions, smuggling routes, and communication chains. Su-young mapped potential threats and safe houses, identifying areas where the triad might strike next. Each piece of information added to a larger puzzle, a network of cause and effect that spanned continents. Their next lead pointed toward Lisbon. Intelligence suggested a triad operation involving illicit cyber activities and the facilitation of smuggling routes from Africa into Europe. The operation required stealth, intelligence, and precision. The city, with its sprawling hills, narrow streets, and bustling markets, presented both opportunities and challenges. Upon arrival in Lisbon, Lee and Carter split into separate teams to observe key locations. Carter embedded himself in the market districts, blending with vendors and crowds, while Lee tracked movements near shipping docks and industrial areas. Genevieve and Su-young maintained communication, providing real-time updates and strategizing contingencies. The city became a chessboard, every movement calculated, every position observed, every action deliberate. Their investigation led them to a series of warehouses, each containing evidence of smuggling, cybercrime, and financial manipulation. Lee infiltrated with precision, taking down guards silently, while Carter improvised distractions and neutralized threats creatively. Each encounter tested their skills, endurance, and teamwork. The coordination between the field team and the command center proved critical, allowing them to navigate complex operations with minimal risk. Inside one of the warehouses, they discovered a sophisticated cyber lab, complete with servers, encrypted drives, and surveillance equipment. The lieutenant overseeing the operation was highly guarded, requiring a combination of stealth, strategy, and brute force to capture. Lee executed a flawless infiltration, neutralizing guards with martial arts precision. Carter improvised, using the environment to create distractions and manipulate enemy movements. Genevieve coordinated remotely, providing access codes, rerouting security cameras, and decrypting critical files. The confrontation escalated when reinforcements arrived. The warehouse became a battlefield, echoing with shouts, the sound of combat, and the tension of high-stakes engagement. Lee and Carter, operating in perfect sync, neutralized threats while minimizing collateral damage. Their teamwork, honed through years of partnership, allowed them to overcome numerical disadvantage and secure the target. The captured lieutenant revealed critical information under interrogation. Shipping routes, financial accounts, and plans for future operations were all documented. This intelligence allowed the team to anticipate and prevent multiple attacks across southern Europe. Lee, meticulous and precise, catalogued every detail, understanding its significance. Carter, exhausted yet focused, ensured no piece of information was overlooked. With Lisbon secured, the team regrouped, aware that their operations had disrupted multiple facets of the Triad network. Yet, they also knew that the organization was resilient, adaptive, and ever-evolving. Every victory was temporary, every success a precursor to the next challenge. The shadows they fought against were persistent, hidden, and relentless. Back in Milan, the team analyzed the intelligence collected across Barcelona and Lisbon. Patterns emerged, connections became clear, and the larger scope of the Triad's operations revealed itself. The network spanned multiple countries, involving finance, smuggling, cybercrime, and even political influence. Every leader, every operative, and every cell had a role to play. and the disruption of one element reverberated across the entire organization. Plans were made for further operations in key cities: Marseille for operational consolidation, Rome for high-level targets, and Geneva for financial nodes. Each mission would require careful planning, coordination, and execution. Lee and Carter, seasoned and skilled, prepared for field operations, while Genevieve and Su Young maintained the command center, analyzing intelligence, monitoring communications, and providing critical support. The tension remained high, the stakes ever increasing. Every city they entered, every warehouse they infiltrated, every confrontation they faced, was a step closer to dismantling a powerful criminal network. Yet, with each victory came the understanding that the battle was far from over. The triads were adaptable, strategic, and ruthless, and the team's success depended on anticipating, outmaneuvering, and striking decisively. As night fell over Milan, Lee and Carter stood on a rooftop overlooking the city. The streets below were alive with movement, unaware of the silent guardians watching from above. Lee's eyes scanned the horizon, calculating, planning, anticipating. Carter leaned against the ledge, catching his breath, yet alert to every sound. "We've been at this for weeks," Carter said, voice low. "But we're making progress. Every cell we dismantle, every operative we catch, it all counts." Lee nodded, eyes unwavering. "It counts, yes, but vigilance must remain. One misstep, one oversight, and everything we've worked for could unravel." Genevieve's voice crackled through the comlink.com, yet precise. "New intelligence incoming. Triad cells in Rome are mobilizing. High-value targets identified. Preparation is critical." Su Young added, "Civilians must be protected. Every operation must consider both tactical and ethical consequences." Lee and Carter exchanged a glance, silent understanding passing between them. Their journey was far from over, yet their resolve was unbroken. The streets of Europe were full of danger, but for them, each city, each operation, each confrontation was a step toward justice. A step toward dismantling a network that thrived in shadows. With renewed focus, they prepared for the next phase. Every plan, every action, every decision carried weight. The triads were formidable, but so were they disciplined, determined, and relentless. And as the night deepened over Milan, the team moved with purpose, ready to confront the next challenge, ready to protect the innocent, and ready to strike decisively against the forces that sought to control and manipulate from the shadows. Lee moved like a shadow, his movements precise and calculated. Every step was measured, every breath controlled. Carter, in his usual fashion, offered commentary, a mix of levity and insight that kept their spirits sharp despite the tension. "Rome's beautiful, sure. But I've got a feeling this city is gonna bite back." Lee didn't respond immediately, scanning the surroundings, noting the patterns of movement among pedestrians, the placement of security cameras, and the subtle signs of surveillance. Genevieve monitored communications from a nearby safe house, fingers flying over her keyboard as she decrypted encrypted messages and traced calls to local triad cells. Su Young coordinated with local authorities discreetly, making sure that while the team moved covertly, the city's civilians remained safe. Every step they took was a delicate balance between stealth and speed, between observation and intervention. Their first target was a warehouse near the Tiber River, a location suspected of storing smuggled goods and hosting meetings between high-level operatives. Lee and Carter approached from opposite sides, using the shadows of the docks to conceal their movements. A series of quiet takedowns allowed them to neutralize perimeter guards without raising alarm. Lee's martial arts were a dance of precision and efficiency, while Carter improvised with environmental elements, creating diversions that amplified Lee's tactical advantage. Inside the warehouse, the scene was chaotic in the quietest sense. Crates stacked high, narrow catwalks overhead, and the faint hum of generators. Triad operatives moved with purpose, unaware of the impending disruption. Lee's eyes locked onto a figure coordinating shipments, a lieutenant with direct ties to multiple triad cells across Europe. Carter, spotting another operative attempting to flee, vaulted over crates with a mix of athleticism and improvisation, intercepting him before he could escape. As they secured the warehouse, Genevieve provided real-time intelligence, pinpointing hidden caches and revealing escape routes. Su Young cataloged financial documents and shipping manifests, each detail a key to unraveling the larger network. Every file, every intercepted communication, revealed more about the triad's sprawling operations. Routes for illicit goods, coded messages for covert transactions, and locations of high-value operatives. The operation escalated when reinforcements arrived unexpectedly. Triad enforcers flooded the warehouse from multiple entrances, forcing Lee and Carter into an improvised battle. The fight was cinematic in its precision and intensity. Lee moved through opponents with a fluid combination of strikes, throws, and acrobatics, each movement calculated for maximum efficiency. Carter, improvising with chains, pipes, and crates, created diversions and neutralized threats with ingenuity and instinct. Outside, Genevieve coordinated crowd control and communications, redirecting local police away from the conflict and ensuring civilian safety. Su Young, armed with both resolve and knowledge, provided guidance on which operatives posed immediate threats and which could be delayed for interrogation. The balance of offense and strategy allowed Lee and Carter to gain the upper hand, despite being outnumbered. After a prolonged confrontation, the triads inside the warehouse were neutralized or captured. The lieutenant extracted, and critical intelligence secured. Lee examined the files with meticulous attention, noting not only the operational details, but also the broader implications for the network spanning across Europe. Carter, catching his breath but ever vigilant, observed, "We've got them on the run, but they're smarter than we give them credit for. One slip, one missed detail, and it all goes sideways." Their next lead took them to Milan, where financial operations and logistical support for the triads had been identified. Milan, a city of elegance, commerce, and shadows, required a blend of subtlety and force. Lee and Carter coordinated with Genevieve and Su Young to map the most critical nodes of the network: banks laundering money, warehouses storing illicit goods, and operatives coordinating cross-border activities. Every action was carefully planned to disrupt operations while minimizing risk to civilians and team members. Upon arrival, Lee and Carter split into teams to surveil multiple locations simultaneously. Carter embedded himself within bustling marketplaces, observing and blending with merchants and shoppers, while Lee moved through industrial districts, noting patterns of activity and identifying potential points of intervention. Genevieve managed communications and decryption from the safehouse, feeding real-time intelligence to the field teams. Su Young coordinated emergency response and maintained situational awareness of both civilians and potential threats. Their operation in Milan quickly revealed the sophistication of the triad network. Hidden within legitimate businesses were warehouses storing smuggled goods, encrypted servers handling financial transactions, and operatives orchestrating a network of supply lines across Europe. Lee and Carter executed coordinated strikes, neutralizing guards, intercepting communications, and securing evidence without triggering wider alert. In one critical encounter, Lee and Carter infiltrated a high-security warehouse containing cyber operations essential to the triad's financial manipulation. Guards patrolled in synchronized patterns, cameras monitored every corner, and encrypted alarms protected the most sensitive areas. Lee's precision, honed through years of experience, allowed him to disable security systems, neutralize guards silently, and access the core operations of the warehouse. Carter, using a mix of improvisation and instinct, created diversions that allowed Lee to move freely and secure the critical information. As the operation progressed, reinforcements arrived from the triads, escalating the conflict. The ensuing battle combined acrobatics, environmental improvisation, and strategic coordination. Lee's martial arts were executed with flawless precision, each movement both defensive and offensive, while Carter adapted to the chaos, using his surroundings creatively to neutralize threats and protect the team. Outside, Genevieve and Su Young coordinated responses, ensuring civilian safety and managing communications with local authorities. After securing the warehouse, the team analyzed the captured data, revealing a complex network of operations spanning multiple European cities, financial institutions, and logistical nodes. Lee and Carter understood the implications. The triads were not only involved in localized crime, but orchestrated an international network of operations, requiring a multifaceted approach to dismantle. The next phase of operations required precision and foresight. Geneva became a priority, a hub for financial operations, covert transactions, and high-level meetings. Every plan, every movement, and every action carried weight. The team coordinated intelligence, field operations, and security protocols, preparing to confront the triads in an environment where mistakes could prove catastrophic. Upon arrival in Geneva, Lee and Carter conducted reconnaissance, mapping critical locations, identifying patterns of movement, and anticipating potential threats. Genevieve's real-time intelligence provided details on financial transactions, key operatives, and communication channels, Su Young coordinated with local authorities to ensure civilian safety and to provide emergency support if needed. Their first target in Geneva was a clandestine meeting of high-ranking triad members. The team approached covertly, using alleys, rooftops, and hidden passages to observe without detection. Lee's eyes captured every detail: body language, weapon placements, and subtle cues of operational security. Carter, blending in with the crowd, intercepted communications, created diversions, and ensured no alerts were triggered prematurely. The confrontation escalated when the team's presence was detected. A swift, intense battle erupted within the confines of narrow streets and hidden courtyards. Lee's movements were precise and lethal, neutralizing threats efficiently while protecting civilians and team members. Carter improvised dynamically, using his environment to gain tactical advantage and neutralize adversaries. Genevieve provided remote coordination, rerouting reinforcements, and ensuring communication lines remained open. Su Young's guidance allowed for strategic decisions that minimized risk while maximizing operational effectiveness. After the confrontation, the team secured critical intelligence, revealing the structure of the Triad's European network, financial operations, and key operatives. Every file, communication, and observation added to a comprehensive understanding of the network, enabling Lee and Carter to anticipate future actions, disrupt operations, and dismantle high-value targets. As the night fell over Geneva, Lee and Carter stood atop a rooftop overlooking the city. The streets below were alive with movement, unaware of the decisive operations unfolding in their midst. Lee's gaze scanned the horizon, calculating the next steps, evaluating threats, and anticipating moves. Carter, breathing heavily yet vigilant, remarked, "We've turned the tide here, but the fight's far from over. They'll regroup, adapt, and strike back." Lee's response was measured, determined. "Then we must remain vigilant, anticipate every move, and strike with precision. The network may be vast, but it is not invincible." Genevieve's voice crackled through the comlink. "New intelligence incoming. Operations in Paris are expanding. High-level targets have been identified. Preparation is critical." Su Young added, "We must protect civilians, coordinate operations, and ensure every action is precise. The Triads are relentless, but so are we." With renewed focus and determination, the team prepared for the next phase. Every movement, decision, and action carried weight. Lee and Carter's resolve remained unbroken, their skills sharpened by experience, and their commitment to justice unwavering. As the night deepened over Geneva, they moved with purpose, ready to confront the next challenge, dismantle the remaining network, and protect the innocent from the shadows that sought to control them. The relocation to Paris was not rushed. After the rooftop exchange in Geneva, the team did not immediately mobilize. Instead, they allowed the intelligence to breathe. Every file extracted from the Geneva operation was reanalyzed with clinical precision. Financial records were cross-referenced against shell corporations previously identified in Milan. Patterns that initially appeared fragmented began aligning into a structured design. Paris was not an isolated expansion. It was consolidation. When their aircraft touched down in the early hours before sunrise, the city appeared indifferent to the hidden conflict unfolding beneath its polished exterior. The Seine reflected muted streetlights. Delivery trucks navigated narrow streets. Corporate towers in La Défense stood silent but imposing against the gray sky. Nothing in the atmosphere suggested urgency, and that absence itself carried meaning. Their operational base was established within a discreet residential building, overlooking a secondary business corridor close enough to observe movement in the financial district, distant enough to avoid scrutiny. From that vantage point, Genevieve began penetrating digital layers of the city's infrastructure. What she found was subtle, almost elegant in execution. Small but consistent access attempts targeting transit management systems. Financial clearinghouses receiving staggered deposits from entities previously flagged in Milan. Private security contracts issued to newly formed companies with no operational history beyond 6 months. "They are embedding," she said calmly, eyes fixed on cascading code. Su Young expanded the city grid projection across the main table. 3 clusters, she noted. Financial exchanges, transit command, and logistical storage near the river. Lee studied the layout without speaking. The silence in the room carried weight, not hesitation. Rome had exposed the supply chains. Milan had revealed the financial sophistication. Geneva had uncovered coordination between leadership tiers. Paris was different. Paris was structural. Observation began before intervention. For 2 days, Lee and Carter moved independently across designated sectors. Lee entered La Défense during peak business hours, blending seamlessly into the corporate current. He noted security rotations around specific buildings, subtle but deliberate increases in private contractor presence, and vehicles stationed repeatedly at access points adjacent to subterranean transit channels. Patterns emerged in repetition. Carter embedded himself within the transit network. Metro maintenance routes, service corridors, freight access elevators. He moved with casual familiarity while mentally cataloging inconsistencies. Restricted panels, recently replaced. Access codes rotated on accelerated cycles. Maintenance crews operating beyond standard hours. From the operations room, Genevieve traced financial inflows tied to recently acquired properties bordering strategic infrastructure nodes. The transactions were layered through intermediary firms, routed through accounts previously identified in Geneva, and finalized under French subsidiaries that appeared legitimate on the surface. It is not sabotage, she concluded quietly. It is acquisition. On the third evening, activity intensified around a warehouse along the Seine. Unlike Rome's smuggling depot, this structure presented minimal external security. That, too, was deliberate. Excessive guards attract attention. Silence attracts none. Lee and Carter approached from opposing perimeters, utilizing dark shadows and service pathways. The first layer of security consisted of 2 contractors, positioned near loading bays. Their neutralization was swift and silent, controlled, efficient, without disruption. Inside, the warehouse revealed its true purpose. Crates were arranged in structured rows, not chaotic stacks. Within them were modular server units, signal relay equipment, and encrypted uplink arrays configured for integration into municipal networks. Portable command architecture. Carter crouched beside an opened crate, examining a relay component. "They're not trying to break the system," he murmured. "They're trying to own it." Lee's gaze shifted toward a raised platform overlooking the floor. Operatives were calibrating equipment with disciplined coordination. Not enforcers, technicians guarded by trained security personnel. The first confrontation began when a perimeter sensor triggered a subtle alert. Reinforcements emerged from concealed access points within the structure. The engagement was immediate, yet contained. Lee moved through narrow aisles with fluid precision, redirecting force rather than exerting excess. Carter adapted dynamically, leveraging suspended cargo chains and steel support beams to disarm advancing threats. The fight extended across multiple levels of the warehouse catwalks, loading ramps, equipment stacks, each space offering both risk and advantage. Outside, Su Young coordinated discrete traffic redirection to prevent civilian proximity. Genevieve intercepted internal communications, delaying external alerts by fragmenting outgoing signals. The confrontation lasted longer than Rome's skirmish, more structured than Milan's chaos. These operatives fought with discipline, retreating strategically rather than charging recklessly. Their objective was protection of equipment, not territorial pride. When the final resistance was neutralized, the warehouse stood intact. Equipment secured. Data extracted. Back at the operations base, the analysis confirmed what intuition had suggested. The modular servers were configured to interface with transit signal controllers and municipal communication relays. With phased integration, they could reroute traffic patterns, delay emergency responses, manipulate digital tolling systems, and monitor encrypted communications passing through certain exchanges. "This is leverage without explosion," Su Young observed. Lee nodded. Control without visibility. Paris was not being targeted for destruction. It was being positioned for silent dependency. Over the following 48 hours, the team executed synchronized strikes across the remaining clusters identified by Genevieve. A financial intermediary operating from a renovated office complex was dismantled with precision, documents seized. Digital access severed. Shell corporations exposed before they could dissolve. A secondary storage facility housing backup uplink modules was intercepted before activation. Each operation mirrored the cadence established in Rome and refined in Milan. Reconnaissance, infiltration, controlled engagement, extraction, analysis. By the end of the week, the visible Paris consolidation network had been disrupted. But unlike previous cities, the data recovered here revealed something more concerning. The Paris operations were not autonomous. They were nodes in a larger synchronized structure. Transfers routed through Geneva had branched beyond Europe. Communications previously assumed regional extended toward Eastern financial markets. Leadership signatures, embedded within encryption sequences, did not match the European director captured earlier. Late one evening, as rain traced lines across the loft windows, the team reviewed the compiled intelligence. "They adapted after Geneva," Genevieve said quietly. They compartmentalized leadership. Carter exhaled slowly. Meaning what we shut down here isn't the top. No, Lee replied evenly. It is another layer. Silence settled, but it was not frustration. It was calculation. Rome had tested their physical response. Milan had tested financial disruption. Geneva had revealed coordination. Paris had exposed structural ambition. The network was evolving by design. Standing at the window overlooking the river, Lee observed the steady rhythm of the city at night. Lights shimmered across water. Traffic flowed uninterrupted. Nothing outwardly betrayed how close control mechanisms had come to shifting hands. Carter joined him, quieter than usual. They regroup. We respond. That's the pattern. Yes, and if they escalate again. Lee's gaze remained steady. Then we adapt again. Behind them, Genevieve continued decrypting residual fragments. Su Young finalized liaison coordination reports to ensure European authorities could maintain oversight without revealing the full scope of the intervention. The Paris chapter was not a finale. It was progression. The triads were no longer relying solely on force or smuggling routes. They were integrating into infrastructure, embedding themselves into the arteries of cities. And the deeper they embedded, the more patient the dismantling would need to be. As dawn approached over Paris, the team prepared for the next phase, not with urgency, but with sharpened awareness. The conflict was no longer about isolated strikes. It was about systemic resilience. The night over the Seine faded into pale light. The city awakened unaware. And somewhere beyond the horizon, another node within the network was already recalibrating. Inside their operational base, the atmosphere was focused but controlled. Screens displayed layered city maps, overlaid with financial corridors, transport nodes, and communication relays. Genevieve had reconstructed nearly the entire Parisian consolidation attempt through captured servers. What initially appeared as fragmented clusters now formed a unified design, staggered access permissions into transit systems, majority control in shell-and logistics contracts, and partial financial leverage within clearinghouses that processed municipal payments. They weren't preparing for a single event, she said, eyes fixed on the analysis grid. They were preparing for sustained control. Su Young adjusted a projection showing 3 remaining active nodes that had not yet been neutralized. These are fallback points. If we disable them simultaneously, the entire Paris structure collapses. Lee studied the configuration carefully. The nodes were positioned with tactical intelligence. One embedded in a financial oversight office, another integrated into a restricted metro signal exchange, and the third hidden within a private communications relay disguised as a corporate data center. Carter leaned against the table, arms crossed, expression serious. If we hit one, the others go dark. We'd lose visibility. Yes, Lee replied calmly. Which is why we do not hit one. The plan required coordination down to the second. The following evening, Paris carried on in ignorance of the precision about to unfold beneath its surface. Corporate towers in La Défense glowed against the darkening sky. The metro lines carried thousands through tunnels that had nearly fallen under silent external influence. Delivery trucks navigated narrow streets along the Seine. Life moved normally. Lee and Carter divided their approach once more, mirroring the operational discipline refined over the past cities. Lee advanced toward the communications relay facility first. Security was layered but professional, not aggressive. Entry required subtle manipulation of access sequencing rather than brute force. He disabled surveillance in segments, never triggering a full system alert. Inside, the relay core pulsed with encrypted signal traffic, routed through international channels. A small group of operatives monitored data streams, unaware that their oversight had already been compromised by Genevieve's remote infiltration. Simultaneously, Carter navigated the underground transit control exchange. Unlike Rome's warehouse or Milan's server hub, this environment was confined, metallic, and acoustically unforgiving. Guards rotated in synchronized patterns, relying on proximity sensors and timed patrol sweeps. Carter adapted fluidly, using maintenance corridors and signal blind spots previously mapped during reconnaissance. 2 guards were neutralized without disruption. A third was intercepted before reaching a console capable of triggering alerts. Above ground, Su Young coordinated with select local authorities, subtly repositioning patrol units away from operational zones to prevent civilian entanglement. The balance between covert dismantling and public safety remained exact. At precisely coordinated timing, Genevieve initiated simultaneous digital lockdowns on all 3 nodes. Financial oversight systems froze under audit flags. Transit signal overrides were revoked. Communications uplinks were severed at the root rather than the surface. Inside the communications relay, resistance escalated. Operatives attempted to initiate emergency protocols, but Lee moved with unwavering precision. Each engagement was controlled, efficient, measured, no wasted motion, no unnecessary force. His objective was not destruction. It was removal of capacity. In the Metro exchange, Carter encountered the heaviest resistance of the night. Reinforcement teams attempted to secure the final control terminal. The confrontation unfolded across narrow catwalks and equipment platforms, forcing Carter to adapt rapidly. Chains from suspended maintenance rigs became tools. Rolling equipment carts became barriers. Every movement was improvised but purposeful. He was not reckless. He was decisive. The synchronized collapse worked. Within minutes, the 3 nodes fell silent. From the operations room, Genevieve monitored cascading system resets across Paris. Controlled pathways are cleared. Unauthorized permissions revoked. Their embedded architecture is gone. Su Young confirmed secondary systems were stable. Transit and financial systems remain intact. No civilian disruption. Back at the relay facility, Lee stood amidst dimmed equipment racks. The operatives had been subdued. The infrastructure that would have allowed quiet external manipulation of the city's arteries had been dismantled at its core. Carter rejoined him shortly afterward, breathing steady despite visible exertion. That's the last of it. Lee did not answer immediately. He scanned the room one final time, ensuring no residual systems remained active. Only then did he nod. Double quotes, yes. The extraction was methodical. Evidence secured. Custody transferred discreetly to authorities prepared in advance. No public spectacle. No dramatic headlines. The city would never know how close it had come to quiet occupation. Later that night, the team regrouped overlooking the Seine once more. The skyline shimmered peacefully. Traffic flowed uninterrupted. The river carried reflections of lights that remained unbroken. Rome had revealed supply chains. Milan had exposed financial sophistication. Geneva had uncovered coordination. Paris had tested structural ambition. And now, the European network stood dismantled. Not shattered chaotically, but removed layer by layer, with disciplined precision. Carter leaned against the railing, quieter than usual. They won't rebuild this here. No, Lee replied. Genevieve stepped beside them, tablet dimmed for once. The financial architecture we exposed cannot reconstitute without drawing global attention. Su Young added softly. And their operational secrecy is compromised. The conflict had not ended with explosion or spectacle. It had ended with removal of control. For the first time since Rome, there was no immediate intelligence pointing toward another city. No urgent transfer. No fallback cluster. The network in Europe had been neutralized. The wind moved lightly across the water. Sirens sounded distantly routine, unrelated. Lee watched the horizon for a long moment before speaking. This chapter is complete. It was not a declaration of permanent peace. It was acknowledgement of objective achieved. Carter exhaled, tension finally easing. So we actually did it. Yes. Behind them, the city continued unaware. Cafes would open in a few hours. Commuters would return to metro lines that functioned normally. Financial exchanges would process transactions free from hidden manipulation. Justice, in this case, had been silent. The team did not celebrate loudly. There were no grand gestures. Only a quiet understanding that months of discipline had culminated in stability preserved. As dawn approached, soft light replaced the night over Paris. They walked away from the river without urgency. Not because there were no more threats in the world, but because this one had been handled fully. Rome had been the beginning. Paris was the end.